Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. In accordance with the requirements of open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel. Last Saturday, we had our town meeting. I'd like to thank the citizens of the town for coming out. We had a pretty good attendance and a very, very long meeting that people stayed with until we completed the business of the town. I'd particularly like to thank the support workers, the Women's Club who put the sandwiches together, the school custodians, the town technical people, the PAC people, the check-in staff, et cetera, who stayed with us for the whole meeting and allowed us to get the business of the town done. Is there any public comment from the board?
Sure, I was going to echo what you said and just thank everybody who stayed there from 9 to 7:40, I think it was. It's a long day, and I think it was cloudy out, which probably helped, but I'm not exactly sure what the weather was.
Yeah, we have no way of knowing.
Right.
I would like to make a public comment. I would like to start out by reminding folks of the evaluation process that happened last year. This evaluation process is different in one major area. Last year, select board members were able to view each other's evaluation and therefore be in a position to determine if the consensus document was just that. This year, unless board members are willing to make their evaluations public documents, which seems unlikely, board members will have no way to judge if the consensus document is just that, an opinion or position reached by a group as a whole. Since we have just got the consensus document and have not had a chance to even take a look at it, I will respectfully request that we take this week to review the document now that it is being made public, reflect on it, and measure it against our own evaluation of the town manager, and be ready to discuss the evaluation at the meeting next week. I have today been informed by some dear friends that the word on the street is that I'm going to go after the town manager tonight. Nothing could be further from the truth. I'm just not wired that way to begin with. Our role as a select board is to support the town manager and help her succeed. When she succeeds, we succeed. Supporting her does not necessarily mean that you always agree. I don't think any of us are elected to just say, yes, whatever you say, town manager. We have to look at what she's thinking and what she's doing and make a decision on whether we agree or not, and then respectfully discuss that. I think that's our responsibility. There's no benefit to taking things personally or attacking someone personally. I have had citizens come up to me and criticize me, and I have said, thanks for your input. They elected me, or some of them elected me. It's their right to let me know what they're thinking. It's our responsibility as a board to let the town manager know when we agree and when we disagree. If those citizens who have criticized me are being honest, they will tell you that I simply thanked them for their input. I'd resign from this board before attacking anyone about anything. Again, I'm just not wired that way. When we sat down to discuss the evaluation, I expressed to the town manager that I think she's a wonderful person and that she's working very hard. It's a tough, tough job. I appreciate all she does for Lunenburg. Thank you.
Any other comment from the board? Any public comment from the public? Please.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me with this? Is it on? Is it on? Dave McDonald, Island Road, Lunenburg. I'm here for a couple of reasons. First one is to say, Mr. Jamie Toll, thank you very much for your service to the town. 6 years, it seemed like yesterday. You've done a magnificent job through thick and thin. But I can't thank you enough for what you've done, and we're going to be sorry to see you go, and hopefully in the future you would consider coming back. Seems to be the thing to do in town.
It's just a sabbatical.
The other reason why I'm here is Mrs. Luck hit on a subject, but Ms. Lemieux, I just want to say a couple of things. I know your evaluation is due, and I'm sure a lot of you read the letter that I put in the paper. There's times in business and in personal life that you got to take a look at what's going on. With you, Ms. Lemieux, I've heard selectmen say that Ms. Spidell wouldn't have done it that way. Well, Ms. Spidell's not going to walk through that door. You were hired for the town with your credentials, your resume, and your talents. It's you who are in charge of this town, or I should say with the selectmen. With that, I've worked with you side by side on projects. I'm on the personnel committee. I'm on other committees, whatever the town needs. What I've seen from you, and to be honest with you, is the amount of respect that you get from your employees and from your department heads. And when I say get respect, you don't demand respect, you earn respect, and you have done that. So as a citizen, my wife and I just want to say we give you a vote of confidence. How the review works is with you guys. I was very happy to hear what you said, but it hasn't been meant out that way. If you don't think it's been personal, then look at the tapes. And I know you look at the tapes, but I think it's got to stop. I think, Ms. Lemieux, you've done a great job. And I personally just want to thank you. And I'm sure your department heads will thank you, and your employees will thank you. We've all make mistakes, which is what you said. We all make mistakes every day. But through the light at the tunnel, I think you've done a great job. The last thing I want to say is that I'm also on the Memorial Day Committee, so I want to thank the Sue Dohertys and the Dave Passios, and for everyone who's going to come and help us on the Memorial Day ceremony on May 27th, I think it's a Monday, at 10 o'clock. So please come down, bring the young ones so they can get involved, and of course all the veterans and families are invited. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment from the public? Please.
Steve Weaver, 288 Holman. I just wanted to make sure that on the special events that is being drafted by the Board of Selectmen and Adam, I want to make sure that there's some more citizen participation into it so that we have some direct input into it to help draft it also. There are several questions that we have on it, and some of them are on a 4-day event. How does Sunday fall? Is that 2 events for the week or weekend? If it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I don't think it's addressed in the special events. So there were a lot of other questions that we have to bring up, so I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that. Also, I put in a request with the Highway Department for stormwater down on Holman Street. It's really making a mess coming down that hill, and I think that, you know, it's just dumping everything right into Mulfus Brook. And down at the end of the road there, some of the no parking signs have been thrown into the brook. So, because of the shenanigans that are going on down there, plus all the litter and everything. So it's a shame that, you know, because that runs right into Dickinson Reservoir, and that's where our town wells are. I just think that it's very important to address it. Thank you.
Okay. Our first appointment is 705 Boys and Girls Club of Lunenburg with a toll booth request.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us. We submitted a request to have another toll booth here in town. I dream of a day when we don't have to have these because I know they're inconvenient, but they are incredibly important and very helpful to our operations. So we hope you'll approve us for Saturday, the 18th, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. here in the center of town.
Now that,
Voting day, huh?
It is voting day, and we hope we have lots of traffic for voting.
Oh, I would make a motion that we approve the toll booth request for the Boys and Girls Club Saturday, May 18th, from 9 to 2. And are you just doing the intersection in the center of town?
Just here in the center.
Okay.
is there a second? Any discussion?
Have we ever said no?
Not to the Boys and Girls Club.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good luck.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Our second appointment is for cruise night, and Police Chief Jim Marino.
Great flyer, by the way.
Thank you. Rob DeCosta the credit for that. This is it's the old saying, do something, do it first, and then apologize later, because we always put this out before we ask permission to do it. So that's what I'm doing. June 12th, 4 to 8, same place, Memorial Drive. Looking for your blessing to shut the road down. Should be plenty of volunteer cops on hand, take care of traffic, and so on and so forth.
Good idea to put a rain date in.
Yes, especially this year. It's been horrible.
Motion to approve the cruise night for June 12th, 2019, from 4 to 8, with the rain date of June 19th.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Thanks for doing this, Chief. It was
Good luck.
really fun last year.
It is a
Well,
fun
thanks for
event.
supporting it, and I hope that the Board of Selectmen are going to have a table again this year if possible. We're also going to have, hopefully, a lot of food this year because it is around supper time, and we always seem to run out, so maybe we'll do better this year.
And this
Thanks.
is the third one?
Third one already.
And so it feels like it's already a tradition.
Yeah, it's a possibility the police chief might have a car there.
Our next appointment is 7:15, so why don't we move down and do our appointments while we wait till 7:15. Our first appointment is the Land Acquisition Committee. If you recall, there was some discussion. They asked if they could have two members, et cetera, and we said that we didn't think so. They've come back and they would like us to appoint Ken Jones as their representative.
Ken Jones is the Conservation Commission representative to the Land Acquisition Committee.
Second.
Any discussion?
Sure, just, has anybody been meeting from Conservation Commission, or have they been unable to attend?
No, he's been attending.
Okay. Even though it goes into executive session?
Well, he wasn't there for the executive session because he was on duty, but he came in after.
I was just curious how they're going to handle that. Okay, that's all.
And when we've gone on some site walks, and he's come to the site walks.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You just cannot believe the number of ticks Brandon Kibbe gets on himself during those walks. I don't know where he goes, but man,
Hopefully he gets them all up.
he looks like a patchwork quilt by the time the walk's done.
Second appointment is for the Housing Authority. It's a special appointment to as the governor's appointee to that Housing Authority, and the candidate is Karen Menard of 672 Page Street, term to expire May 1st. Is Karen here? Want to come up? We usually ask people why they want to be on a committee.
So I am 1 year into a 3-year elected position within Parks, and maybe a month or two ago, I decided that this would be my last term. That will bring me to 5 years. And you probably all know by now I like to plan ahead. And so I was trying to think of what I was going to do next. And back in early 2018, I became a court-appointed advocate for kids in foster care. And the first case that I was on, one of the requirements for these children to be reunited with their mother was for the mother to have appropriate housing. Way easier said than done. And I realized at that point that there is a great need for affordable housing. And I figured what better way to get involved than housing. So I said, well, I'll try to do housing when I'm done. And then I said, why am I waiting? I have the time, I have the energy to do it, and I figured, let's go for it. And after a couple of different things happened, I decided that the appointed position for the governor's seat was the way to go. So.
Any questions or comments?
Thank you for volunteering.
Yeah, thank you, because there certainly is a need for affordable
And I don't know,
housing.
I don't know everything about it. Luckily, the chair of the Housing Authority seems to be willing to teach me the ropes, which is going to be a good thing, because I don't know enough about it yet, so.
Nobody ever does when they jump
No,
into this.
exactly.
So I'll make a motion that we appoint Karen Menard to the Housing Authority special appointment to the governor's appointee vacancy, term to expire May 1st, 2021.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just
All those
thank
in
you very
favor?
much.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. And the final is the Agricultural Commission, Greg Burns, 13 Oak Ave. Greg here?
I am here.
Good,
How are we doing tonight?
good. Would you tell us why you want to be on the Agricultural Committee?
I'm fairly new to Lunenburg. I've been here for 43 years. I'm actually fifth generation. I thought I was fourth generation in my house. I just found out today, and I'm actually fifth generation. So I might know a little bit about agricultural. So I just figured I live it. I own 2 businesses in town. I'm not going to say all my money, but majority of my money stays in town between the farming and I own a gym below the village, which I think most of you guys have seen me there. So town of Lunenburg is very important to me. It means a lot, and I really would just like to see farming stay in town, and that's about it. I think I have a lot of good opinions and a lot of good ideas for the Agricultural Commission, so I'd appreciate it if you guys would appoint me to volunteer for it.
We appoint Greg Burns to the Agricultural Commission with the term to expire June 30, 2022.
All right?
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank you.
All those in
Thank you.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, thank you. All of those people appointed should see the town clerk and get sworn in, and then we'll put you to work. Now we'll go back to our 7:15 appointment. It's a weekday and Sunday entertainment license application for Fantasia The Sheep LLC, DBA Fantasia Family Getaway. Hi there.
Hi, I'm Sarah Lowe. First, I want to just point out that it's actually Famtasia with an M, as in family. I'm not sure how that got changed, but so we've been emailing back and forth for a few months with Elaine, and talked with the folks at the Board of Health and the fire chief, and had some emails with the police chief. And through that process, I'm not sure if you were given a proposal that included camping, but we've determined that that's not an option. So because of the state requirements and those pieces, so we've removed that from our proposal, and have partnered with Pine Acres Campground, who's going to give a discount to people who are coming for day passes with us. So essentially, we ran this event last year in New Hampshire, and the focus of the event is to have a weekend-long, in this case we won't have camping, but that's okay, place that is a place for families to get together and celebrate and have fun and play games. And so for example, we have a life-size Candyland game, and families play as teams, and they're the pieces. And we have 6-foot unicorn sprinklers, and we have music and professional storytellers and things like that. So we are looking to have a permit for that and answer any questions, because I know there's a number of questions. So
There's quite a bit of information in your packets.
Yeah, I know it.
a lot of information. We tried to be very thorough. I needed to adjust things, and I know Elaine was out today, so I'm hoping she updated. We also were able to complete with an emergency evacuation specialist, a plan for emergency evacuation, and we have a plan. The driveway will never have any public vehicles in it. We have only a shuttle that will bring people as parking across the street. We have a parking crew. That's what they do for a living. And so they will set up and fence and be at the gates, and all of those pieces, so.
Can we ask the chief if all of his concerns have been addressed?
Can I ask? Chief, can I ask you to come to the mic? I'm sorry.
I voiced a number of concerns, and I believe that, Sarah, I'm sorry, Sarah has acknowledged that and will comply with those, or at least address those concerns. So I don't see a problem with it, quite honestly, at this point. And of course, we'll be there to help you, try to make it happen and
Yeah, and
keep it safe and so on and so forth.
last year where we had it, we certainly had the police and the fire, because we recognize we know the system for having to have fire lanes, so we would have them come and check all of that, and have you come and make sure that our plan for the parking and traffic would meet what you needed and adjust it. Our goal is to be flexible and to create a family event, and part of why we created this is because we recognize that there's a number of people who wanted to go to different festivals and those kinds of scenes, but do not want their children in that kind of a situation where there might be drugs or other things. So our goal is to create a situation where none of that exists, and that it's like a family event.
Right,
So
so
that's our,
primarily, one of my biggest concerns is that the area that, where her driveways are, or where the two driveways that are going to be used, is on a hill, a grade on Howard Street, and the traffic tends to be pretty fast. Get a good head of steam going down that hill, so if we're going to have people walking across, that's a concern to me, and if it's addressed properly, and of course we would monitor that, then that's okay. Our other biggest concern is any inconvenience to her neighbors with respect to noise and so on and so forth. That's something we're going to be
so
very
I
concerned
have
about.
talked to one and left messages for all of the abutters and with my number, and haven't gotten any callbacks. The one that I spoke to, I believe, is on the left side. I don't have her name, sorry, and said that they didn't have an issue, but I've left voice messages like 3 or 4 times with the different neighbors, direct neighbors, so. I don't know what else I can, I don't really want to go and knock on people's doors. I feel like that's unexpected, so.
So I noticed that there are 2 different addresses, and they're on different sides of the street. Are you reaching out to everyone between the 2 addresses, whether they're abutters or not?
There's no between, they're right across from each other.
Oh, okay. And so, direct abutters would be kind of the only people that would be impacted by it. Is that fair to say, that there's no need to reach out to people further than the direct abutters?
Yeah.
Okay.
Within, maybe 500, 1,000 feet,
Yeah.
either direction on both sides of the road. That's the way I would do it. That would cover it. There's quite a distance between the houses up there
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, right.
But in fairness to those people, because sound does travel, that's the problem. Sometimes we don't realize that, and then it becomes annoying to somebody who lives 1,000 feet away or more.
Right.
We want to just make sure they're aware of it, they know about it, and then that they're not inconvenienced by that. And I understand your plan is to shut down by 10 o'clock at night. That's reasonable. 7 to 10, or I think you said 9 to 10. I think that's reasonable.
And truthfully, the morning is some children's bands and storytellers that will be amplified, not,
Oh, that's
I don't really,
that's pretty scary.
Is it amplified to a kind of a theater type environment, like seating, or is it the whole property?
So there's a lawn area, and the stage that we have is So the house is here, the lawn is here. It is well back from the road. I mean, it's got more than 1,000 feet, I would think. It's a pretty long driveway.
But it aims at some
It aims
audience
at-
that's kind of
it's
in
like a
one
hill.
place.
It's a hill, and that's why we situated it there, so that it would be going into the hill area.
Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Sure, I would voice one concern, just reading through, I think it came from the fire chief, in that the event is already advertised. And we've gone through a lot with these events and trying to set up our policy, and I would hope that before anybody advertises an event, especially open to the public on private property, that they would seek a permit first.
So, I'm not sure if you know this entire history. So we've been emailing with Elaine for a few months, and she had told us to hold off on filing for permits, because you were gonna approve a special event permit. I think it was back in March. And so we were holding off, and I said, my concern is with waiting for that special event permit, I need to be able to start getting advertisers to fund this, and I need to be able to get our thing. And she had said to me in an email that she didn't see a problem with us seeking advertisers and starting that process.
Okay, I feel
So
like it sets up the assumption that we permit, and so that makes me a little...
I apologize for that, because that was, maybe I misinterpreted it, but I said, my concern with waiting for the special permit, that what you were sure was going to be approved in March, and then in April, and then in May, and we had held off on...
Does the advertisement also list hours and everything?
At this point, I'm not sure that it has the specific hours. It has, the days and some of the music and things that are happening.
And have tickets been sold?
The only tickets that have been sold are about 5 to my friends.
Okay.
Truthfully, my best friend, her 3 kids, and her partner. So, other than that, no. I have volunteers who've signed up, so.
Okay. In the live, I'm seeing the Sunday listed here, that the music would be from 9 to 7:30 p.m., and that's the hours that you've asked for. Is the music 9 to 10 on the other 2 days?
Yes.
And it stays loud and amplified till 10?
We can turn it down if you tell us to. But, we were looking up the noise ordinance codes, and so we were trying to follow those.
And how many attendees are you allowing? I haven't seen a quantity anywhere.
So, last year we had about 150. I'm not anticipating a huge amount more than that. If you have a number you'd like us to cap it at, we can do that.
What's the size of the property? I know there's a lot of information.
8 acres. There's that's not all cleared though. So.
Okay, so I have a question. I wasn't here the night we did special event permitting last time. Did we cap the attendees to the events, the amount of people that could go to the 3 events, the photography and the Pride events?
I believe so.
I believe so too.
Yeah, I think
That was in my motion. 200 be satisfactory?
200 would work. My question would be, would that need to include my volunteers?
I'd say,
I have about 50 volunteers who help make it happen.
Well, I
Or
feel like
would that be
tickets sold with
200
me.
ticket?
to me,
How about the parking plan? How many does that accommodate?
So the farm across the street is large, and we're gonna have fenced parking, and he could fit 1,000 cars there. We walked the whole property with the parking crew, but it was winter, and we talked about what we were gonna do and how we were gonna fence it to keep the cars contained, because he's got animals and things. He had initially proposed that we camp there. I didn't feel like that was a good plan. There's bulls on the property. Might not be good. Just my opinion.
And where's the Pine Acres campground?
It's in Ashby.
Okay. And how many people can they?
They have 58 sites. Each one will hold 5 as a family for one fee, and then additional members can be $10. And they're going to give us a discount on that. So they have a whole number. I also have worked out block room discounts with the Motel 6 and Days Inn in case people don't want to camp.
How far away do people usually come from, or did they come? Is it all overnight, or is it some local?
It would probably, a mix. I would think it would be a mix. I think last year we had some people camp, some people not. I feel like last year is a hard one to judge. We had a tornado warning in the middle of the day Saturday.
Of course.
So we evacuated for a while, and
So you've got evacuation down.
the person whose house it is at is a FEMA licensed crisis and event coordinator and trainer. So she helped us some with the evacuation plan. And we have a medical crew. They're Encore. They're a licensed medical crew. They come and set up medical tents at events.
And it says RV passes are $50. What's
We're
that
not
for?
selling those anymore. I think, did I forget to take that off? I gave
It's
her
just on what I see here. I don't know if it's where this came from.
I had sent an original plan, and then we revised it. I'm not sure if you have the revised one that removed camping, and if I missed that, I'm missing that, then that's my fault. But we're not going to have we're not going to have camping, so anything that refers to that should have been removed.
You guys have any more questions? Are you ready for motions?
No, I'm all set.
Make a motion that we approve the weekday and Sunday entertainment license application for Friday, August 2nd through Sunday, August 4th for Fantasia The Sheep LLC, DBA Fantasia Family Getaway at 138 Howard Street, with the conditions that no more than 200 tickets be sold, that they adhere to the noise hours that they laid forth, and that they meet all the department heads' concerns.
There's a-
Second.
Any further discussion?
In our noise bylaws that didn't pass, what was the cutoff for the amplified music that we were going to go with? I can't remember. 10?
10.
My only concern is the duration, again, where we're looking at 3 straight days of music. And I know when we had the unifier, I don't live anywhere near there, and I heard the amplified music for all those days to the point that I was almost like gardening to the thumps. So 3 straight days of unrestricted amplified music, I feel like is a lot potentially to take in as a neighbor.
Can I ask a question? Just, sorry. So I don't know festival. But our intent with our music is to allow for families to be doing activities and be able to hear each other and talk to each other while they're doing those and the music is happening. So my sense is, like last year, we had people playing games. We have a whole bunch of quests that kids go on with their families, and they have to go around and ask people questions and do things and make things, and all of our music that's amplified, I couldn't tell you an exact decibel, but it is not loud enough that you can't have a conversation right in front of the stage without yelling. Like, that's not the intent. The intent is for it to be amplified for the people who are there to be able to hear themselves talk and think and have music in the background. Does that make sense?
It does. It could be potentially, it's 33.5 hours of amplified music in one weekend. So I didn't know if, as we look at our policy, my thought being maybe like the total quantity of noise per day also comes to my mind, in the sense that if you take one weekend and you're a neighbor and you're listening to 33.5 hours of amplified music, that's a lot. It may not happen that way, but that's what we'd be authorizing. 13 hours on Friday, 13 hours on Saturday, and 10.5 hours on Sunday. So I don't know if if when, I mean, we don't have our policy yet, but to think that in a day, what's a reasonable amount of amplified sound? It's like when you can't wait for the neighbor to put their leaf blower off, like hopefully it's not 13 hours and 10.5. Just a thought.
So that comment really is kind of a future consideration
No, for this too, in the sense that, okay, we say 200 people, but I just know that was one thing that came to my mind after Unifier, and then I was just here as a citizen, but followed that very closely. And then after the fact, that's the one thing I thought, if I had gone back and looked at the permitting, what would have made a better compromise? And I think the noise, I was really far away from that, and the noise was constant. And so I don't know if that's a lot of noise. It would feel that way to me.
Again, for this case, I feel it's for kids, so.
But it's not just a kid event. This is morning music for children, she said. This is an adult event as well.
It's a family-centered event.
Okay, but we've had a motion and a second. Do you want to request an amendment, or?
I don't know what anybody else feels about that quantity of music or amplified noise. I guess I'm just throwing it out as sort of a...
Right, well, I certainly know where I live, music is loud, and it really wears on you on the weekend. So I get that it might be good to set up some breaks.
And this is a residential area. It's a for-profit event, and then everybody else living there, it's like, what impact does that have on them? They don't get any revenue from the event, but it will impact their space as well.
It might be helpful to know that there are sort of breaks in that we have an amplified stage and we have an acoustic stage. And so in between each amplified band that's happening, when they're doing set breakdown and reset up, there is another band that's about half an hour to an hour, it's about 45 minutes to an hour actually, that's doing a set that's not amplified. And that happens in between every amplified show.
So would you feel, and this
make
would go
sense?
future too, in terms of 13 hours of amplified music, saying no more than 8 hours of amplified music per day or something like that? So we're...
I actually like that.
I mean, I think it depends what the event is. I don't see this one being an issue. Yes, if someone wants to have a hard rock concert and have 13 hours of music, yeah, I get that, but.
Yeah, I've got tambourines and ukuleles. That's what I have. I don't have electric
And the
guitars.
other event was drums, and noise can
I mean,
be
I'm not,
noise.
no, I understand, but does it make sense to you that I have the amplified stage while they're doing set breakdown, there is the non-amplified stage?
It does. 13 hours of noise is a lot of...
Right, the non-amplified stage is kind of built-in break, so it's probably not 13, it's definitely not 13
So
steady
you'd be
hours.
comfortable with like 8 hours of amplified noise if we made a modification?
I don't know how I would police that, you know what I'm saying? I mean...
Well, then it could be 13 hours of amplified. I mean, I don't know. This is not just for this event, but we've talked a lot about special events and the impact it has on abutters, and residential for-profit events has been a topic. So
And that Unifier Festival was not rock music. It was
not. It was drums and probably some tambourines.
It was pretty soft music. When I left that event, I went home, and my neighbors were making more noise with their friends than at the festival. And it was a real issue for a lot of people.
Yes, I'm just trying to look at that.
Might I suggest that we take that in consideration when we formalize either our policy for entertainment licenses, or if we pursue the noise bylaw again, but that we see how this goes. I mean, I think that one of the things that we learned from the Unifier is that, you know, when there were some complaints, the police went and the people were responsive.
I think the thing is, with no noise bylaw, there's nothing for the police to respond to. That's why we attempted to make the noise bylaw. So I'm just trying to, instead of just saying yes, say how do we find compromise. I think 13 hours of potential amplified noise is a lot, and it's 33.5 hours in 3 days. So I would do the permit if we did something like no more than 8 hours of amplified noise. I think that's a lot of noise for a residential area. But I don't have to say yay. I mean, that's just towards this motion, I would feel like I would need to add some sort of boundaries of noise.
Chief, what do you think?
Just so you know, there, even without a bylaw, I mean, this case law that gives us the authority, if in fact somebody's right to be undisturbed is in question, then we can ask that the music either be turned down or shut off. And if that doesn't happen, then the police can issue a complaint. Then it'd be up to a clerk to decide if there was enough to issue the complaint. So those things can't happen. Of course, that's the last thing we want to happen.
Yeah.
It's not what we're about. But and I share your concerns, and I probably should have said that myself more clearly. Is that, and I think I did allude to the fact that one of my primary concerns is that you don't inconvenience the neighbors.
Right.
And they will call the police. And the police have to take action. So, and unfortunately, like the other events you alluded to, I actually live not that far away, and again, same thing, all weekend long, the pounding and everything. It is annoying, and it can cause an inconvenience. And I can imagine all the people between me and that event, listening to that all weekend. We did get some complaints, we had to address them. We would do the same thing. It is a long time. It always concerns me too, when you have these things going on for 3 days in a row, late on Sunday night. It's one thing to go Friday afternoon, Saturday, but now you're going late into Sunday night too. And
Sunday, 7:30.
okay, that was a question I think I asked.
Sunday, 7:30, everyone's off the property by 9 o'clock.
Well, that makes it a
Sunday.
little better. But you gotta understand, the
I can
police,
go to work.
even without a noise ordinance, the police do have authority to quell disturbances.
And our goal, we would absolutely, and our goal is in no way to disturb the neighbors. And like I said,
It's a little impossible in some ways. That's why I'm trying to look at the bigger picture, because it's the multi-day, long-hour events. It's like, there's been parties on the lake that are very, very loud and travel, but that party's not happening the next day.
Right.
And 7:30 on a Sunday, it's all in one person's perspective. I might be putting my kids to bed at 7 o'clock on a Sunday night and be like, holy smokes, there's still amplified noise. So it's, everybody has...
How much you're willing to put up with, and...
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. And I know you haven't got your policy done yet, so, but in the meantime, I don't know if it helps set your mind at ease a little bit, but, that's something that we'll have to monitor. And if it gets too loud, or if it's too long and people are disturbed by it, we have to take some action. That's just what we have to do.
And that's, I completely understand that.
Just keep that in mind. You should test that too, because I don't know, up there's not a lot of homes to the west. Although there are some, you're gonna have the people up by the Arrow's Chicken Farm. But you ought to test what direction the sound, you can drive around, put some sound and drive around and listen.
That's a good idea.
We can do that. We can be flexible on where we put things, and we can play with that and
Yeah, you
figure
might
out what
want to
makes
play
the
with it and
most
see what
sense.
direction works the best. I know facing that towards Howard Street is going to be a problem, I can tell you right off the bat. But if you face it down towards, the Townsend area, down Lewis Townsend.
Townsend, send the
So I understand, because I've been on the property, and there's tree lines, and I know behind her is like conservation land, and so there's.
Right, but
we
keep
can
in
play
mind,
with
that doesn't mean it won't travel. I
Right.
don't know what it'll travel, but I would test it and see
Okay.
what maybe works the best, because the last thing you want is the police getting 1 million calls all weekend long. We'll address it.
You're welcome to come hang out with us.
Chief, can I ask a question? How did it work with the Unifier Festival? Well, what sort of activity did you have, and how many complaints were there? And
Well, there was a lot of parking complaints and that sort of thing on the other side of the street.
noise complaints?
Was
There
it
was a couple of
bigger
noise
festival?
complaints. I don't even remember. I think I submitted a report on that, but,
4 days.
so there was a decent amount of complaints, all different types of complaints, but there was some noise complaints. And a couple of times we did have to go down and tell them to, settle it down a little bit.
And they did.
Oh, yeah, no, that was not a problem. The cooperation was good. It was just, it wasn't without any complaints, I can tell you.
Yeah.
But it was nothing serious, nothing serious. But yeah, I mean, it's, maybe that's my perspective. Serious to me might not be. People.
Yes.
Yes, sure.
Could you structure it so there's acoustic on the front end and the back end of the festival? So first 2 hours and the last 2 hours, and then the
You mean,
earlier part of the day and the later part of the day?
I think it would be challenging to change our evening schedule.
See, I think the problem I have here is that it's already advertised and you already had a schedule, but you don't have a permit. So us granting a permit or creating a permit should not be structured by the applicant. It should be structured by the town. And with respect for abutters, this is a for-profit event on private property. We've had a lot of thought put into this area. And I, as a citizen, studied the unifier very carefully, and what I took from it was I thought there was just for a consecutive length of time too much noise. And that's why here I would just say the one thing I think we can try to improve upon with a multi-day event is to have some noise restrictions. That's why I would say 13 potential hours of amplified noise feels like too many. And I would say 8. I would be comfortable with 8 hours of amplified noise per day.
I think if I think about the way that we're structured, we probably could fit in that, honestly, because.
Well, you'd have to if that was our
right.
permit. That's my point.
Well, but I'm just saying, thinking about the setup and what we've, started to organize. And, with what I was saying, where we've got an amplified band and then we have an acoustic storyteller or, someone playing the guitar. And then we and so those things are going back and forth. And I think each one of the acoustic sets is between 45 minutes and an hour. And those are happening in between each thing. So I'm pretty sure that would meet that requirement. We can make it.
Okay. I'd be happy with that.
Okay. Well, there was the motion in the second, so we just have to modify.
All those in favor?
Well, are we making the modification?
I don't know. You want to make?
I didn't make the motion.
I'd modify the motion to say no more than 8 hours of amplified music per day.
Would you accept that, the seconder?
Second. Mm-hmm.
And are we making the weekday one? Because we need a separate motion for the Sunday entertainment license.
The
since they're
motion
two
was for
separate
both.
ones. Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Thank you.
Good luck.
Have fun.
Now, you're still required to kind of keep working with the town, right?
Absolutely, without a doubt. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All righty. Our next appointment is with the Skate Park Committee. We get an update. How are you, gentlemen?
Hello.
Hi.
I'm from Kauzo from 1091 Mass Ave. So this is just an update and of what's gone on for the past 3 months. So 2 of the events we've had, we had a group of seniors working with Mrs. Foyle's class that ran a Battle of the Bands. It was highly successful, and we decided that it would be like a yearly fundraiser for the skate park because we raised a little over $2,000 after expenses. We pulled in many great bands from all over Massachusetts, not just Lunenburg, and they all played, and it was held at the Bull Run. Another event we held a booth at the Groton Road Race. We talked to people all over Massachusetts that we wouldn't normally talk to, and all we had to do was help set up and volunteer the day before. That's all.
Hi, I'm Aiden Moore from 59 Wildwood Road. I have 3 of the events we have held in the last 3 months. My first one, we held a Fortnite tournament at our local high school. We teamed up with the IT guys and just everybody there, and we held a Fortnite tournament in their tech labs. We had about 50 people show up, and we raised about $500 from that. My second topic, we, over the Easter period of time, we had Pastor Gary Moritz held 4 sermons, and at each of the sermon he handed out cards to everybody, and each card that was handed in to him, he donated $1 to the skate park, and we raised about $500 from that. And my last event is we are hosting a t-shirt contest for our next line of t-shirts. We are sending out a contest to the community. We're going to have them make designs for the skate park, and we're going to narrow it down to 3 designs that we like and pick the best one. The winner of the contest will get 2 free shirts, and they'll have their design on our next line of t-shirts.
Aiden Swift, 63 Oak Ave. As Aiden said, we met with Pastor Gary during a Genius Hour. As well as the Easter collection, he also suggested a dodgeball tournament that he ran in the past. He said that he'd be running it in the summer. We don't know the date yet, but he said that he'd be giving the proceeds to Lunenburg Skate Park. We also have received a $2,000 check from the Lunenburg Lions Club, directly from Lisa Normandy.
Christopher Roy, 105 Chestnut Street. Earlier this year, we had banana bread donated to us by Trudy's Treats, and with that, we ran a bake sale. And we set up our bake sale at the Lunenburg High School, where when basketball games were going on, so we could get the most out of the event. And we were joined by many members of our team, and we managed to sell out all of our bread in less than an hour. And we gained more popularity through this event, and we advertised for future events such as our Fortnite tournament that was talked about. And another upcoming thing is we are reaching our goal of $60,000, where Miles for Miles has promised us another $3K, and our current amount of money is at around $50,000.
Mason Whitcomb, 110 Houghton's Mill Road. So with all of our smaller fundraisers going on at the moment, we decided to talk to Marty Connors, who is the CEO of Rollstone Bank. He himself, as the CEO, promised $2,500 to our project. He is also a trustee for the Crocker and Wallace Foundation, and he says that he can do his best to get us $20,000 in matching funds from Crocker and $30,000 in matching funds from Wallace. So this is one of our more exciting developments. And so we've also been taking a step back and looking at this realistically, and we want to get this done in our lifetime. So we still are looking to break ground in 2020, and so we're sizing down, looking for a more reasonable size of 4,000 to 6,000 square feet. Are there any questions?
What's the new fundraising goal with the smaller footprint?
It's around, I'd say, $200,000 to $250,000. Is that all?
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
Like around $200,000 to $250,000.
No, the size.
Oh, 4,000 to 6,000 square feet.
And how much will the park cost?
The park? At the 4,000 to 6,000 square feet, it would be about like the $200,000, $250,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So there isn't anything for maintenance or anything like that?
Or that's actually why we would be holding the yearly fundraiser at the Bull Run. This type of skate park is very easily maintained with just simple concrete patches. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the update.
Mr. Chair.
Great.
Could I just ask?
Sure.
Have you been speaking to the Parks Commission as well? Going to keeping them up posted? Okay.
Funny you should ask.
Karen Menard, 672 Page Street. I just don't want them to be thrown under the bus. We actually have not asked them to come back. They need to get a little bit further into the process for us to really help them in getting our feet wet and their feet wet, and so don't throw them under the bus. We have not asked them to come back. So.
Nope, that wasn't intended to throw them under the bus. It was just a question.
I'd like to commend the committee for sticking to it on this. We'd all like to see it in your lifetimes, fellas. But municipal government moves slowly. And fundraising moves slowly, and you got them both on the same track. Any other comments or questions for the skate park thing? Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much. All right. Our main event for this evening is the town manager's annual performance evaluation. And notwithstanding Selectman Luck's opening remarks, I would like to begin and keep an open mind to some of the comments you made about seeing it for the first time right now. The process for this review is a process that was developed by the Select Board over several meetings, over several boards, over several years, and evolved to the review process that we currently have. The new wrinkle, if you will, is the impact of open meeting law on the process, which the main factor is that it prohibits us from doing two things that we traditionally did. One is sharing each of our total reviews with each other, which would be a violation of, or would make them public documents and therefore kind of violate the privacy of an individual's performance review. And the other is our ability to look at them ahead of time, because that would make the document, the draft document, a public document. Our intent tonight is for us to go through this document that is a compilation of all your input. Hopefully you will see all your input in there. Hopefully you will see the ratings and input from your fellow board members. We'll be able to discuss them. And at the end of this process, we will agree that it's no longer a draft and it's no longer a product that was put together by me, but it's a product that we agreed to and did together. If, as part of that process, we need to correct, we can do that. But my suggestion is that we take the document and go through it line by line. If there's things you'd like to add, if there's things you think are missing, we can make those notes, make those adjustments. If we agree, it becomes part of the final document that we then can vote on as one final document.
Well, I really, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, I really feel that it's unfair to ask us to discuss it this evening without having ever laid eyes on it before. I'm very cognizant of anything that I say that may be misconstrued, and I'm just not comfortable proceeding. You can read the whole thing if you'd like. It's a public document, but I do not want to comment on this work tonight.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I agree with Phyllis. This is a 22-page document that was here for us when we walked in tonight. And I would never want to participate and think about something and have a discussion, a documented discussion on something that I have never read, especially where there's been so much attention paid to the fact of how to evaluate and whether or not we can evaluate. I definitely think it warrants a read, thought, notes, so that we can come back and actually engage in conversation. 22 pages of information without a single read. Very hard to have a thoughtful discussion about it.
Does that conflict with exactly what he just said about the open meeting law?
No, because we've received it.
No, because it's a public document now because he's presented it to us.
But because of open meeting law, as uncomfortable as this is, both for us and for the town manager,
Right.
we are going to do this in public.
You're right.
And we're going to do it tonight. Now, you don't have to comment, you don't have to vote for it, but this is the time that we're all going to see this for the first time. Yes, somebody had to compile it.
Right, it's not true that you compiled it. You're not seeing it for the first time.
And I'm not going to do a lot of talking.
I would like to make a motion that we table this discussion and put it on the agenda for next week after we've had a time to read the 22-page document.
Second.
I think you're going to be 2-2 on that one, because I'm not going to go with that. I think this is the point, that we're doing it in public, and we're doing it now. Having it ahead of time defeats the whole purpose of doing it this way.
And we do, in fact, have a commitment to get this done before the election as part of the town manager's contract.
We can do it next week.
I would prefer that we do it tonight in public the way the town council advised us to do it.
It will be in public if we table it and read it and do it next week.
No, he advised us to read it together and to agree on it. I don't plan on talking.
I don't plan on talking either.
Well, good, then I'll just
We'd
read
have
it.
to take like an hour and a half recess and read it.
The purpose is not for you to read it, the purpose is for us to
How
hear
can
it.
We need time to consider it.
To suggest the purpose of being here is to discuss something we've never read is something I can't comprehend.
It's just disrespectful to us and the
It is
town
the
manager.
law. I'm not crazy about it either, Phyllis. It's the law. This is the way the town council told us it needs to be done.
In public.
Adam Costa?
No, the town council for employment.
I don't
And-
remember
and
that he
Patrick-
said that.
Yes, he did. He said
I'm
it has
not,
to be done.
it's not fair to look at this document, and it's not a consensus document,
And it won't be until we come to a consensus.
and which we could do
We're
next
supposed
week.
to do that as a group.
I think you need to keep your voice down.
I think I'll talk the way I'd like to.
We've covered this before, and I would have loved to sat at home and read it first too, but the Town Labor Council told us to do it in public. That's why we're doing it this way.
But we can do it in public next week. He can read the whole thing tonight. We can take it home.
I could have sent it to you right after I compiled it, but I was told not to.
Part that we can't.
That's right.
So that we could do this in public.
We've received it.
We've received it in public. You can read it in public, but I am not going to comment on it until next week. I'm
Well-
not going to vote for a consensus document that I haven't even laid eyes on yet.
Yeah, 22-page document to discuss unread is a
Well, it's
very-
going to be read.
And I know we spoke about this when I voiced questions, but unfortunately I wasn't at the meeting where that council had discussed this, because then I would have voiced my concerns and questions and confusion on some of how this is laid out. But I think discussing it, tabling it and discussing it next week is the compromise, in that we're going to do exactly what you want to do tonight next week after we've given it thoughtful evaluation.
It's not that we want to do this tonight. We've been instructed by council to do it this way.
Okay, we've had a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay. So that motion did not pass. I'm now going to read the document.
Well, it's 2-2. This creates a confusing situation, like with the hunting permits. It's sort of like,
No, you voted to pass over something that's on our agenda. The motion failed. We're going to do something that's on our agenda.
But it's true, you know.
Okay, from the top. The purpose of this evaluation instrument, it is the BOS Composite Draft 5/7/2019. Town of Lunenburg Town Manager Performance Evaluation. Please feel free to stop me at any time if you have any comments. The purpose of this evaluation instrument is to formally appraise the town manager's performance on an annual basis. The document allows the Board of Selectmen to assess the town manager's performance in management practices and the accomplishment of goals. Individual performance evaluation forms prepared by members of the Board of Selectmen are considered work product, personal documents, and shall not be publicly released. The only document to be released will be this overview document compiling the ratings and comments prepared by the chair. The town manager is reviewed annually on the achievement of the agreed-upon goals established the previous year and performance standards. The performance standards are measured using a rating scale of exceeds expectations, meets expectations, and needs improvement. In addition to the annual goals, 10 categories of performance standards and core responsibilities will be used to evaluate the town manager. The town manager has submitted a narrative self-evaluation, including a summary of the town manager's performance against goals and objectives for the year. Board members completed their evaluations, met and discussed their conclusions with town manager, and gave their input to the chairman. This document represents composite ratings from individual reviews and represents a consensus overview document. Copies of the individual reviews will be given to the town manager and placed in the town manager's personnel file. This composite will be reviewed, discussed, revised, and accepted at a scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting to publicly discuss the evaluation. The Select Board will schedule a future workshop to discuss the evaluation process, compile information to improve future evaluations, and discuss and agree upon goals and objectives for the board and town manager for the coming year.
I would like to point out that it's not a consensus overview document at this point, because we haven't even seen it yet. Consensus means an opinion or position reached by a group as a whole. And I would also like to point out that it says the composite will be reviewed, discussed, revised, and accepted at a scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting to publicly discuss the evaluation, and that can be next week.
But it's going to be tonight.
Also, I
think that's unreasonable.
Still think that 2 to 2 is not a decision in the positive or negative, but this requires a signature at the end.
Right.
I would not sign something I didn't have the chance to read.
Reading it now.
We're reading it now.
I think you are just being so
We might be reading it, but unable to have a discussion.
I think you were being disrespectful.
We can read.
I think this is a very difficult night for all of us. I think it's difficult for the town manager. I think I put hours into putting this together. I believe I included all of your input, and this is an opportunity for you to see if I did.
Correct. You've had hours with this information. We've had nothing with this information. That's a discrepancy in the discussion that doesn't give us the ability to have a discussion. We can read it, but that doesn't mean we're going to be able to talk about it. I don't understand why Phyllis's recommendation of next week. I mean, now we're burning time and spinning wheels on whether or not we're going to do it when we could just come all prepared next week.
So I'd like to move on then. Thank you.
And we'd still meet the deadline of before the election.
I'd like to move on then. Part 1, performance on prior year goals. Evaluation of the town manager's progress toward these goals will use agreed upon measures of progress and standards of performance in determining whether the intended results are being or have been achieved.
Maybe we should.
Goal 1.
I'm
Just so
sorry
you know, we're discussing the potential of leaving so that we can discuss this next week, because we're requesting something that's important to us, and there's really no disadvantage or reason that we can't have an opportunity to read this document. And our motion may have failed, but if we need to read this, we can exit the meeting.
Ms. Adams, you can do anything you believe is the right thing to do. We've been advised by our town council to do it in this fashion.
We're not going to violate open meeting law if we read it tonight and discuss it next week.
I don't know that you're a lawyer, Mrs. Luck.
I just feel like you're being disrespectful and mean.
We could have sent this out days ago when Jamie had it done, but this was how we were directed to do it. This is how we should be doing it.
It can be read tonight. I have no problem with that.
That's not what our town attorney told us to do.
Asking anyone to sign something they don't have an opportunity to read
You're
when
going to
two
read
people
it.
don't want to.
If we stop talking, we
But
can read it right now.
We should be able to read, take notes, and then discuss as a consensus.
We're discussing it as a board. It's the way they recommended us do it. I'm not thrilled with open meeting law either, but that's what it says.
I like open meeting law, but there's no violation.
You like it when it suits your purpose.
No, I don't think. I think it always suits the purpose to follow
No, I
the law.
think I
Not
think
suiting your purpose right now. You don't seem to like it very much.
Open meeting.
Open meeting law doesn't say that we have to discuss it tonight.
we have to discuss it in public, and we can't have it ahead of time. And now you're circumventing that. I'm not sure what that does relative to a violation, because I'm not an attorney. I want to do it the way we were told to do it, because I know that by case law has been approved. And I don't see any harm in hearing it now. If you choose not to vote on it or to think about it or whatever, that's fine. I want the first reading to be in public right now.
I agree. I am happy to have the first reading in public now, but I would like
Fine.
the discussion on it to be held
Well,
next week.
let's do the reading.
I
And
would
see if you,
like-
I'd like you to see the whole document before you make the comments you made before we even came out of the gate. If you want to talk about respect, but the bottom line is, let's do it, and if you choose not to vote on it, that is fine.
I would like the assurance that we can have a discussion on it.
Sure we can.
Add it to the agenda
Sure we
next
can.
week, and that we sign
We
it
can't
next
vote
week.
on anything unless we agree to vote on it.
So I'd like to make a motion that tonight, to comply with the intent of the open meeting law, that we read this into the record and we have a thoughtful discussion next week.
Second.
Still think if you see something that's wrong tonight, you should respond and allow Jamie to make edits for next meeting. 'cause
I
we need to
think
come
we're
out of
just
next
asking
meeting.
for the assurance that we
I'm not going to
don't,
vote for that motion. That is, in fact, what will happen if you choose not to vote tonight. So you'll get exactly what you
I
request.
think we're choosing not to vote tonight and we're just trying to set
Fine.
that standard.
That's fine. But you have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay. So I'm going to continue reading.
I'm still not sure what 2 to 2 means.
Well, it does.
Like we're tied.
That's what I
It
think.
means the motion didn't carry.
It also didn't pass. To continue,
It doesn't have to
We-
pass or continue. We were going to do that anyway. You tried to stop it. It didn't work. We're going to keep going.
and just in general, and I respect Selectman's Luck point of view on this, no board should be presented with 22 pages of information and expected to have a thoughtful discussion. That's not a healthy way
You've
to
made that
approach
point.
something.
You've made that point. Thank you.
We've tried.
Part 1, performance on prior year's goals. Evaluation of the town manager's progress towards these goals will use agreed-upon measures of progress and standards of performance in determining whether the intended results are being or have been achieved. Goal 1, increase public outreach and improve public relations. The objective was to increase access to current information and solicit input from citizens on topics that are important to the town, residents, and its business. The annual assessment was completed and in progress. All members felt that this goal was still in progress, with 2 members feeling that it was at least partially completed. The new website was finalized and went live on Labor Day weekend, and users can utilize the subscription feature to receive notifications on any updates to information they are interested in, see the latest news under news and announcements, and view the posts on the town Facebook page from the live feed. Various updates have been made, including new information on recycling, Americans with Disabilities Committee page, a page for information on ROAR, and the Get Connected page. That was retitled to Citizen Engagement and Transparency Center. The town has subscribed to a new financial transparency data platform called Clear Government that is also on the Citizen Engagement page. The charter, bylaws, and important documents buttons were moved to the top of the main page, and the homepage middle buttons were changed to the town calendar and town meetings and town finances. A communications questionnaire was created to gather data on how people receive information on town government and the type of information they are interested in. We received slightly over 100 responses, and 56% of the respondents received their information through town social media accounts, 45% receive information through the Lunenburg Ledger, and 42% of respondents receive information through the town website. One member commented that, in its natural state, this type of goal is always ongoing. Another input that I went to the town calendar on April 27th to pursue the timeliness of information on the website and did not find either the town meeting on May 4th or town elections on May 18th shown. Better use of the signs at the Ritter and the high school, as well as the town calendar, were also suggested. Another member stated, Heather has continued to seek input from citizens on current issues, increase and create new and increased two-way communications. This is a job that is never really done. Administration of the Facebook page, as well as attending many other board meetings, then relaying information to the board via the town manager reports, has really opened up the communication channels. While a member wondered if too much of the town manager's time was spent keeping up with the town web and Facebook activity, the same member felt an opportunity to increase public outreach and participation was missed when the town manager included 2 new positions in the budget proposal without using the many communication opportunities that are available to give visibility to these new hiring proposals. Goal number 2. Is there any comment on goal number 1?
I think you did a great job, and I feel like my comments were integrated.
Goal number 2, comprehensive infrastructure plan. The objective, address deferred maintenance on town buildings, recreation areas, and other town infrastructure, and continually update long-range capital plan for the town's assets. Annual assessment in progress. All members felt that this was an ongoing goal and was in progress. Town manager was goal to continue to develop comprehensive inventory and billing and infrastructure maintenance plan that includes repair and maintenance of town buildings, school buildings, land, recreation areas, roads, and underground infrastructure. Building and infrastructure needs will be included in the capital plan and funded in the operating budget through the facilities account and the town roads account. The FY20 budget recommendation includes an additional $40,000 for maintenance of facilities and an additional $50,000 in the town roads account. The town manager will continue to address infrastructure needs through recommendations to fund capital projects and recommend a budget that will address annual maintenance of facilities. In an effort to address the significant amount of capital requests identified to date in the capital plan, the FY20 capital plan also included all the repairs identified in the Vertex reports for the Town Hall, Ritter Building, Old Primary, Brooks, and T.C. Passios Building. Although the town is still in the process of identifying the future use of some of these buildings, by including the known repairs to continue the current use of these buildings, these make the capital plan a more comprehensive document. One member recognized the town manager effort to continue the town's plan to include building and infrastructure needs in the capital plan and be funded in the operating budget through the facilities account and town roads account, and is pleased that she is continuing the practice put into place when the town passed the road improvement debt exclusion to include an additional $50,000 in the town roads account. The member commented, "The complete streets presentation recently given to the BOS was confusing at best. The consultant used information that was different from the information provided to the BOS, leaving the BOS looking unprepared." Another member commented that the town manager, along with the capital planning committee, have put together a Google Doc spreadsheet administered by the town department heads that centralizes and project capital needs in one location. This has drastically improved the ability to track needs and plan for the future. Heather has continued to develop a comprehensive inventory and building and infrastructure maintenance plan that will include repair and maintenance of town buildings, school buildings, land, recreation areas, roads, and underground infrastructure. This is another task that is impossible to truly complete, as building and asset conditions are always changing, but I feel her administration of the 10-year capital plan has set a solid framework to track infrastructure. Any comments on goal 2?
Looks good to me.
Goal 3, facilitate business and economic development. The objective is to create a partnership with the business community that promotes stability and growth for our existing businesses. Annual assessment complete and in progress. The board was split on whether this goal was still in progress or completed during the review year. The town manager held sessions with the business community to find ways to partner with the local businesses and facilities and facilitate meetings with other business associations to form regional alliances. She held business-town partnership meetings with the Lunenburg Business Association and coordinated a joint meeting with the Pepperell Business Association that led to Lunenburg joining Townsend, Pepperell, and Groton in regional business association events. She has worked with the Regional Planning Agency and the business group to create a business brochure. She applied for and received district local technical assistance to have planning assistance from Montechusett Regional Planning Commission, MRPC, to create a business brochure. Meetings were held with the Lunenburg Business Association to develop the Explore Lunenburg brochure, which was completed at the end of 2018 and is now up on the website under the business section on the website and the Conservation Commission's page. The town manager was asked by the BOS to create a charge for Economic Development Committee and work with the committee members. A charge was created and adopted by the board at the November 6th meeting. After initiating the advertising process for filling the seats on the committee, the board decided to put the process on hold. Although one member was critical of the Economic Committee charge and felt it was poorly written and exercised. 2 members felt that the slow progress against this goal was not the fault of the town manager, and the board agreed to table economic development as a primary goal until further direction can be provided. Any comment on goal number 3?
Fine with me.
Goal number 4, advance human resource management. The objective was to streamline the process and procedures for employees. Annual assessment complete and in progress. All members felt that the progress was made against this goal, and 2 members feel that some degree of completion was achieved during the review year. Heather completed a comprehensive update of personnel policies and procedures. This will be a regular review process starting in July. The board reviewed and updated various policies and procedures at the workshop in July and October and made amendments to the alcohol and drug policy and the Corey policy. The social media policy is the only personnel policy that is yet to be updated. An employee handbook was completed that includes all personnel policies, codifies the town's hiring process, and other relevant employee information. The new performance evaluations were included in the most recent DPW collective bargaining agreement and are being utilized. The plan is for other departments to implement performance evaluations for their departments. One member stated, "I believe the town manager's proposal to add an assistant town manager, human resource director, and recreation director show that her work on human resource management is still in progress, and the town manager has been unwilling to engage in further discussion on this topic beyond defending her position, displaying an inflexibility and unwillingness to listen. As a direct result of the town manager keeping these positions in the budget, 2 members of the BOS were compelled to vote against recommending the FY20 budget. 2 members felt the staffing request was completely within Heather's area of responsibility and voted to support her staffing plan in the FY20 budget." Any comments on goal number 4?
Doing good so far.
Goal number 5, create a written procurement process and procedures. The objective was compliance with procurement law, further internal controls against fraud, and implement financial auditor's recommendation. The annual assessment was complete. The 3 members commenting on this goal felt that it was completed. 1 member did not respond. The town manager developed written procedures for the proper procurement of supplies and services and construction that create internal controls to alleviate any potential violation of procurement law and create another control against fraud. A procurement manual was completed and includes guidelines for bidding requirements and the town's requisition and approval of purchase orders in munis. In February, all departments, town and school, were notified that in order to streamline the process for procurement and that the engagement of services had gone through all the proper procedures, departments would need to have contracts reviewed and signed off by the town manager and finance director, and that all procurement files would now be kept in the town manager's office. 1 member recommended that the procurement process would spell out who is responsible for each task and push the responsibility down into the sewer department organization. Any comment on the last? That was the last goal. Part 2, performance and standards and core responsibilities. These standards reflect basic expectations of the town manager in the performance of the duties of the position and measure how well the town manager completes the work required of his or her position. The town manager is expected to perform his or her job responsibilities independently, efficiently, and effectively. The town manager shall possess the knowledge and skills required for the position, make appropriate judgments, and work proactively to complete assignments. The rating scale is, the following scale will be used to rate the town manager's performance in all categories. Exceeds expectations is performance consistently exceeding expectations, the overall quality of work is excellent, and the goals were met or exceeded. Meets expectations. Performance consistently meets expectations, and overall quality of work is good. The most critical goals were met. Needs improvement. Performance has not met expectations, and improvement is needed. 1 or more critical goals were not met. The first performance standard was individual characteristics. is dedicated to the highest ideals of honor and integrity in all public and personal relationships in order to merit the respect and confidence of the elected officials, other officials, and employees and the public, demonstrates accountability for actions, conducts herself fairly and honestly, exercises good judgment, displays enthusiasm, cooperation, and willingness to adapt, exhibits composure, appearance, and attitude appropriate for executive position, treats others in a fair, consistent, impartial, and professional manner, is effective in dealing with people without arousing antagonism, and demonstrates an understanding of difficult situations, maintains an open and approachable manner, presents a positive outlook, and sets an example for subordinates, proactively seeks solutions and assumes responsibility, and organizes priorities and effectively handles a variety of projects, assignments, and people. The rating on that characteristic: the board was split, with 2 members exceeds expectations and 2 members meets expectations. Ms. Lemieux instituted an open-door policy to meet with staff and the public. She attends board and committee meetings upon request. Department head meetings allow all departments to share what they are currently working on in the department and oftentimes think of ways we can work together to achieve a goal. She continued a meeting between the library and school to talk about trying out a pilot program with 5th grade classes coming to the library. This required an increase in staffing needs at the library to assist all the students and was achieved through budget amendments made at the November special town meeting to fund the increase in staffing hours. She attended various Parks Commission's meetings to listen to their needs, supported their capital project requests in the coming year's capital plan, and requested a Parks Director position in the FY20 budget to support their administrative, physical, maintenance, and programming needs that are lacking due to no dedicated staff. Ms. Lemieux displays a professional demeanor with staff, appointed and elected officials, other agencies, and public at large. She maintains working relationships outside the boundaries of Lunenburg, including the Dispatch Administration Board, with area town administrators, with the North Central Chamber of Commerce, Montechusett Regional Planning Commission, and our state legislators. An example of proactivity seeking a solution and offering resolution was addressing the inaccessibility of a variety of our facilities and recreation areas. Ms. Lemieux proposed to the board and ultimately town meeting to amend the Americans with Disabilities Commission composition to have a majority of members be individuals with disabilities or have a family member with a disability, and also proactively applied for both planning and project grants from the Massachusetts Office on Disability. Prioritizing competing demands is a skill that Heather has demonstrated. Personnel issues are always take a high precedence over other matters and often have required adjusted timelines to respond. A town manager must balance the need to complete administrative work, preparation for board meetings, meetings with other committees, boards, and agencies, amongst the other day-to-day responsibilities. One member stated, "The town manager conducts herself appropriately, despite the fact that the wrong budget information was included in the May 2018 warrant. Town meeting went fairly smoothly. She was still new to this position and the town and is adjusting to the enormity of the task before her. She meets my expectations for someone still learning the job. She does sometimes appear rigid and unwilling to adapt. One example was her unwillingness to support the implementation of a 24/7 ambulance coverage in Lunenburg 1 year earlier than it was planned, even though it was shown to be able to fit into the budget and be of great benefit to the town. Her only objection was that it deviated from the plan. The measure was widely supported by Lunenburg citizens and passed overwhelmingly at town meeting." Another member commented, "The current board has been less than civil and/or agreeable this year. Heather has navigated that tension and animosity with better composure and more professionalism than I have. Her character and demeanor are publicly put to the test each and every Tuesday night, and she handles every circumstance with grace and respect. She often adapts to conflicting direction from the board and offers a positive outlook and alternative solutions during meetings." Any comment on the first one? No. Number 2, problem-solving decision-making. And the fact is, there identifies and isolates problems and solutions, evaluates alternative courses of action, and makes a logical decision, uses good judgment and common sense in making decisions, knows when to take action and what type of action is appropriate, anticipates stakeholder needs and attitudes and the impact of policies and procedures, and responds appropriately. The rating: the board was split, with 2 members exceeding expectations and 2 meets expectations. As a result of client input, Ms. Lemieux made a decision to move the Veterans Service Office to the Ritter Memorial Building. She worked with the facilities technician and the IT department to prepare the office and make sure it had phone and fax connections. The Veterans agent was moved in February. This has provided the Eagle House with much-needed storage space in the old office. To ensure that all stakeholders knew the move was occurring, proper notification was posted and advertised in the Ledger. When retail stores ran out of pay-as-you-throw bags, Ms. Lemieux immediately worked out a solution and backup plan with the bag vendor that put our main retailer on auto order instead of the bag vendor waiting for payment, and to have an emergency supply of bags at the DPW. She initiated the process to work with the Public Employee Committee to do health care plan changes that resulted in the introduction of a high-deductible plan, decreased the town's liability for Medicare Part B reimbursement over the course of the agreement, and reduced the town's OPEB liability costs by millions due to the plan changes. This took 1.5 years of meetings with the Public Employee Committee. She introduced 6 changes to optional insurances that have resulted in savings to the employees and better coverage, including dental, life insurance, accident insurance, critical illness insurance, and disability insurances. Initiated a review of all tax title properties with the finance director and treasurer collector that identified having tax lien sales would be the optimal way for the town to be made whole, in that the bidder would pay all outstanding taxes, penalties, and interest, and keep the taxes current going forward. By notifying delinquent taxpayers of the pending tax lien sale, many delinquent taxpayers paid their outstanding taxes before the tax lien sale, thus decreasing the amount of outstanding taxes, and the town recouped approximately $130,000. The overarching goal was to reduce the amount of delinquent taxes that went back many years and to clean up the books. Ms. Lemieux is currently working to address the contamination in the town's recycling through public outreach, education, and a plan to implement procedures that have proven effective in other communities. That plan was reported to the board and included a requesting a residual contamination detail report from Casella to provide us with a baseline, remind Casella to use the OOPS tags for unacceptable recycling, send out a tax bill insert with Recycle Smart information, doing a monthly post with recycling tips on different communication channels, getting another contamination detail report from Casella, and ultimately conduct a curbside contamination audit. A member felt that in regard to decision-making, some decisions, like complete street choices and grant requests, should come to the board. One member stated, "I look forward to the continuation of the education campaign the town manager has undertaken, and wonder if the administrative assistant at the DPW could take on this task to free up the town manager for other tasks." Another member stated, "Heather often adapts to conflicting direction from the board and offers a positive outlook and alternative solutions during meetings. Isolating problems and identifying solutions has become a full-time job on its own, and I feel that Heather handles that role with great composure and judgment." Any comment on that, number 2?
Looking good.
Number 3, professional skills and knowledge. Maintains knowledge of current developments affecting the practice of local government management and is familiar with applicable local, state, and federal legislation and regulations related to town services. Anticipates and analyzes problems to develop effective approaches for solving them. Willing to try new ideas proposed by the board members and/or staff. Demonstrates skill in listening, speaking, and writing, persuading without diminishing the views of others. Has a full working knowledge of the administrative and management systems and procedures. Ensures that the policies and procedures for employee hiring, promotion and performance appraisal, and discipline are equitable, legal, and current. Ensures that the human resources are adequate to accomplish objectives. Understands and implements long-range and strategic planning techniques. Identifies trends that will affect the community. Demonstrates the understanding and ability to analyze and facilitate policy choices that will benefit the community in the long run. Conveys ideas and information effectively in written and verbal format. and exchanges verbal and nonverbal messages with others in ways that demonstrate respect for the individual and furthers organizational and community objectives. While 3 members rated exceeds expectations, 1 member felt that the rating was needs improvement. Ms. Lemieux attends professional development sessions through the professional associations and belongs to the Massachusetts Municipal Personnel Association, the Massachusetts Municipal Managers Association, and small town administrators meetings. She attends procurement classes as required to keep up procurement certification. She has made annual recommendations to the board on various policies, including personnel policies, and drafted an employee handbook that will be provided to employees and promote fair and equitable employment practices. An annual review of the board's policies ensures compliance with the current state and federal law, as well as reassessing policies to make sure they are in line with current practice. In regard to long-range and strategic planning, capital planning, and forecasting, the town's revenues and expenses are 2 areas that improvements have been made in regards to data collection and the ability to analyze the data. Using the template worksheets provided by the Department of Revenue's Division of Local Services for financial forecasting, the debt schedule worksheet can be used to see the impact of borrowing by plugging in principal and interest payments on the current debt policy or on paying off debt early. She led the Capital Planning Committee and transitioned departments to using Google Forms so that data is easier to update and enter by departments, and this year incorporated all of the Vertex report figures for town facilities to make it a more comprehensive snapshot of the town's long-term needs. Although the town charter only requires a 5-year capital plan, she provided the Capital Planning Committee with all known project requests going out 10 years, added projected revenue streams for future years that will offset these expenses, and the amount of anticipated deficit based on those estimates. The town manager reports are summaries of various ongoing action items, department updates, and a means of keeping the board informed. Ms. Lemieux ensures that these are written so residents can also follow along with the progress that is being made and important updates. While 1 member stated, "I appreciate that the town manager attends professional development sessions through professional associations and attends classes to retain her procurement certification as required by the town's chief procurement officer." The town manager, in the inclusion in the budget of 1 management position and 1 other staff position, has demonstrated a lack of understanding of long-range and strategic planning, nor did she convey the need for these 2 positions effectively in writing or verbally. Other members felt Heather is very well informed on topics in the town, and Heather has given many updates in her town manager reports from seminars that keep her and the board current on new developments in regulations and practice. Her communications, both written and verbal, are always executed professionally and respectfully. I have witnessed her ability to implement long-range planning on behalf of the Capital Planning Committee. Her dedication to consistently budgeting money for special purpose stabilization fund shows great foresight and is preparing the town for future needs. She has also consistently recommended increased budgeting for annual maintenance of town infrastructure to preserve our town assets. Any comment on number 3? Number 4. Oh, I was going to say, still looking good to me. Teamwork and leadership. The fact is a productive team leader in responding to, encouraging, and supporting the ideas of others, instills a loyal, cooperative attitude among employees and the organization, builds cooperation and consensus among and within diverse groups, helping them identify common goals and act effectively to achieve them, recognizes independent relationships and multiple causes of community issues, and anticipates the consequences of policy decisions, acts as a neutral party in the resolution of disputes, has knowledge and skill in mediation negotiation principles. The ratings. 1 member did not respond to this category. 1 member rated meets expectations, and 2 members rated exceeds expectations. The department heads continue to be extremely supportive of Ms. Lemieux. She is seen as a leader and advocate for the staff. Heather continues to hold monthly department head meetings that are rotated between all the town facilities. These meetings exemplify teamwork. At the meetings, everyone reports on what they are currently working on, upcoming projects or programs, ways we can assist each other, and a way to keep everyone up to date on the goings-on relative to events and programs. Outside of these meetings, she frequently meets with department heads and staff and support staff when they bring new ideas to the table, support them in pursuing those, and try to provide them with the resources to help them succeed. Some examples of this, of when the COA director wanted to expand the senior wellness classes but didn't have the space in the Eagle House, she coordinated the use of the TC Passios gym. The program was very successful, and we anticipated continuing the program in the fall. Ms. Lemieux was part of the negotiating team for the Neshoba Valley Regional Dispatchers and finalized negotiations with the DPW union for new 3-year agreement. She has resolved employee discrepancy issues. She has resolved employee disciplinary issues that, if not done correctly, could result in expensive litigation. The member who did not provide a rating stated, "I appreciate the town manager holds monthly department head meetings and would look forward to members of the BOS being invited to attend so that they may have a first-hand look at the town manager's leadership style. As we were not allowed to interview employees or view any personnel evaluations prepared by the town manager, I am at a loss to answer this question. I feel the BOS lacks sufficient information to evaluate the town manager in this area, so cannot provide a grade at this time. She neither exceeds nor meets my expectations as a leader from what I am able to observe." One member stated, "Oftentimes I do not feel that our town manager remains neutral. Examples include the hiring of an assistant town manager and the proposed town office move to TCP. Another example is the conveyance of town land." A member commented, "Heather seeks out input from department heads as topics relate to their areas of expertise. Letters and input from department heads are consistently included in BOS information packets, so the board is able to respond to their input. Great cooperation can be seen between town departments on many fronts. Balancing staffing and capital need requests for police, fire, DPW is navigated with great care and consideration for all parties. Under her leadership, department heads have been patient and willing to take turns with each other as we purchase new equipment and hire staff with the understanding that there is a long-term plan for everyone to get the resources they need to function effectively." That's number 4. Number 5, staff effectiveness. Encourage the development and high-level performance of staff and employees throughout the organization. Effectively selects and hires employees for position vacancies. Creates a work environment that encourages responsibility and decision-making at all organizational levels. Shares authority as necessary and removes barriers to creativity. Assigns responsibility to others. Clearly defines expectations. Provides direction and support, and evaluates results. Stays accurately informed and appropriately concerned about employee relations. Professionally manages the compensation and benefit plan. Develops and executes sound personnel procedures and practices. Seeks to foster high morale and cohesiveness among employees. Promotes training and development opportunities for employees at all levels of the organization. The rating. The board was split, with 2 members exceeds expectations and 2 meets expectations. There are various trainings offered by our insurance company's employee assistance program, and in October, Ms. Lemieux set up a staff training titled From Problem to Productive Effective Management of Challenging Employee Situations. This year, certain employees attended different OSHA trainings due to the change in law that municipalities are now subject to OSHA requirements. She supported the fire department in their goal of training employees to become paramedics. The FY20 budget includes funding for continuing this training for the 2 firefighters hired in FY19. Hiring of new employees follows our procedural guidelines outlined in the appropriate collective bargaining agreement or posting of non-union positions per the town charter, and have now been formalized in writing in the employee handbook. This ensures a uniform, fair procedure for current employees to be promoted, if qualified, and for external applicants. Personnel policies are reviewed annually or amended sooner if a change in law necessitates it, and are given to all employees so they are cognizant of what the town's policy says. Prior to beginning negotiations with any of the unions, she met with the board to discuss issues they would like addressed and the parameters of wage increases. Ms. Lemieux initiated the process to work with the Public Employee Committee for health care plan changes that resulted in the introduction of a high-deductible plan, decreased the town's liability for medical Part B reimbursement over the course of the agreement, and a reduction in OPEB liability costs due to these plan changes. She initiated changes to optional insurances that do not cost the town anything, that have resulted in saving the employees and better coverage, including dental, life insurance, accident insurance, critical illness insurance, and disability insurance. Monthly staff meetings are a vehicle to foster teamwork and group cohesiveness, and an employee luncheon for all staff, and it was well received, and had an employee luncheon for all staff, and it was well received. Examples of assigning responsibility include having the land use director present the various iterations on special event permits, and having the police, fire, and DPW take the lead on providing more data on the fuel tank capital project request and asking them to engage with residents to answer questions they may have. There is much evidence of the strong working relationships developed with all the staff and mutual respect for each other. Ms. Lemieux's staff depends on each other, and Lunenburg is fortunate to have the level of dedication that our employees exhibit on a daily basis. One member wrote, Ms. Lemieux also appears to be very engaged with all departments. Other input, I appreciate that the town manager has taken advantage of the town's insurance company's employee assistance program trainings to promote staff effectiveness. Further, that she has recognized the town's need to have paramedics on staff and has included funding in the FY20 budget to continue paramedic training for the 2 firefighters hired in FY19. The town manager, in her self-evaluation, cited 2 examples of assigning responsibility. I would like to see many more such examples of assigning responsibility blossom in the coming year, as I feel it is a real need. And through collective bargaining negotiations, Heather has been working toward the implementation of performance evaluations for staff to clearly define expectations. She has worked to refine existing and develop new personnel procedures and policies. That's number 5. Number 6, supervisory oversight and direction. The factors are: elicits respect from others and sets an example of professionalism within the organization, motivates and communicates well with staff, effectively plans, organizes and delegates work, monitors results and evaluates performance of those supervised, and provides feedback in a timely manner, applies an appropriate level of supervision to improve any areas of substandard performance, stays accurately informed and appropriately concerned about employee relations, provides direction, support, and feedback to enable others to meet their full potential, shows ability to assess performance and identify others' developmental needs. The rating. The board was split, with 2 members exceeds expectations and 2 meets expectations. Ms. Lemieux meets with department heads and other staff to review ongoing and future projects. She listens first, offering feedback to help achieve the goal, and checking in at a later date to check on the status. Valuing the ideas and input of the department heads creates a stronger commitment toward the success of the organization. Ms. Lemieux states, Lunenburg is fortunate in that we have excellent leaders in each of our departments that have years of experience and knowledge and are also dedicated to the people of Lunenburg, their fellow employees, and are always looking for ways to improve. A few examples of how Ms. Lemieux has worked with department heads to achieve these goals are the fire department. The fire chief would like to get the department to a paramedic level service to provide a higher level of service to our aging community and eliminate the reliance on other ALS services. The FY18 and 19 budget included added staff towards this goal, and the FY20 proposed budget continues the necessary paramedic level training to meet the 4-year plan. The capital plan also includes figures in the projected year that the town could apply to run an ALS level to outfit the ambulances with necessary equipment to run an ALS service. This last year, the police chief, animal control officer, and town manager worked towards the feasibility of creating a regional animal control facility. Heather helped with the application process in order to receive a grant through the Regionalization and Efficiency Grant Program for $42,000, and then put out a request for proposal for architectural and engineering services to hire an architect to work with us and the Townsend officials to perform a feasibility study, hire a geotechnical engineer, design a facility, and cost estimate. The exercise has answered questions about the cost for such a project, and the police chief and the town manager proposed an alternate solution to the board about pursuing the purchase of the land out in front of the police station that would not only provide a building that would not need the amount of funding to build a new facility behind the public safety building, but also would provide a much-needed second means of egress to the public safety building. The land use director and town manager have worked together on promoting our local economy. Lunenburg applied for and received district local technical assistance the past 2 years on different projects that were to promote the local economy, such as using Montechusett Regional Planning staff to help facilitate the creation of a business association, creating a business brochure that could also be used by the 10 Lunenburg Business Association. That 10 is just floating around in there. And creating a permitting guidebook. The land use director and town manager went to every meeting together and communicated with each other and the attendees at these meetings throughout to achieve these end products. This involved listening to all the input and suggestions of business owners and incorporating them into the end products that reflected the consensus of the group. There is a mutual level of respect and trust that has only improved over the last 2.5 years. I think it's important to always be professional in your demeanor and how you carry out your duties, and it is especially noticeable in public officials. Heather has had one-on-one conversations with staff about always acting in a professional manner. These are not easy conversations, but are necessary to uphold the integrity of the organization. In preparing for such items as the special events permit or complete streets application, the bulk of the work on moving those processes forward has been delegated to the appropriate department head. After each meeting with the board, the department head and Heather confer to determine her next steps. One member commented, "The town manager is still new to this job. As such, she does meet the expectations I have for someone new to the job. She, understandably, sometimes has difficulty delegating to her subordinates. The Lunenburg Economic Development Committee is an example of this." The member continued, "Rather than tasking the land use director with the creation of Economic Development Committee, the town manager took on the task of creating one and listed the land use director as an ex officio member. Such member does not have to attend committee meetings. In my first evaluation of the town manager, I had detailed one of the town manager's direct reports that I felt needed more guidance and supervision. The situation as outlined in that first evaluation has grown steadily worse, indicating to me that the town manager has either dismissed my concerns or has been ineffective in dealing with the situation." Another member commented, "I have not witnessed anything but a professional and positive leadership between Heather and staff members."
Relationship.
Another member commented, "I have not witnessed anything but a professional and positive relationship between Heather and staff members." That was number 6. Number 7, community and public relations. The factors were, demonstrates a constant and sincere interest in providing the highest quality of service to town residents and instills the value of good customer service in staff. Understands the basic principles of service delivery in functional areas, public safety, community and economic development, human and social services, administration, and public works. Anticipates future needs, organizes work operations and establishes timetables for work units or projects, is aware of technological advances and changing standards, identifies and understands trends, effectively allocates resources and predicts the impact of service delivery decisions, determines citizen needs and provides responsive, equitable services to the community, maintains a consistently high level of quality in staff work, operational procedures, and service delivery, facilitates organizational improvements, maintains good and working relationship with legislators, media, and public groups and organizations, cooperates with other regional, state, and federal government agencies. Rating. The board was split. 2 members exceeds expectations and 2 meets expectations. Ms. Lemieux is often the primary contact with residents. Heather listens and works with the appropriate officials to resolve their concerns. Examples would include a complaint by residents about dumping of trash outside a donation bin in the Lunenburg Crossing parking lot. Heather engaged the Land Use Director, Board of Health, Police Department. After working with the owner of the property, the donation bin was removed. Another example, complaints received about a certain public official and the lack of service provided to these residents. Ms. Lemieux met with each of the residents, documented their concerns, and met with the employee to investigate the issues raised. Ultimately, the employee was issued a letter that put them on notice and the level of service expected. She has a good working relationship with each of our legislators and has reached out to them on multiple occasions with requests for letters of support and funding needs, and they have contacted her as well to inquire about needs. Heather has begun to utilize our media outlets to put out public announcements and made a point of being available to meet with any reporters to provide transparent dialogue. This past Christmas, after seeing our Facebook page post about the Christmas angel tree in the town hall, the Sentinel wrote an article that reflected the generosity of the residents of Lunenburg for those in need. Heather met with various organizations such as the Salvation Army, ROAR, Resources for Opioid Awareness and Recovery, and the Women's Club and the business community. Salvation Army requested support in promoting their events, such as the Christmas Angel Program and other events. ROAR has asked for support in promoting their events. Heather created a page under the community section to post information and share upcoming events. The last couple of years, she worked with the Women's Club, where their food sales benefit recipients of scholarship money they raise. A significant amount of time has been spent over the last 2 years in working with the business community to facilitate the organization of a business association and develop materials to promote the local economy. One member commented, "Ms. Lemieux works to communicate well. However, sometimes information doesn't seem to make it all the way to the people. But I don't think that's the reasons lie with her." Another stated, "The town manager represents the town in a positive and professional manner. In her self-evaluation, the town manager reports that she meets with residents that have concerns, has a good working relationship with Lunenburg's legislators, and has met with various organizations such as the Salvation Army, ROAR, the Women's Club, as well as the business community. I know firsthand that she worked with Senator Tran's office to secure grant funding for Lunenburg, and I am grateful for that." And finally, a member contributed, "As mentioned previously, through the new website and the town Facebook page, Heather has created an avenue to reach many residents, to keep them informed, and to create an atmosphere of good customer service. Through budgeting and capital planning, she addresses future needs of the town. It is evident that she dedicates a great deal of time to communicating and collaborating with staff, boards and committees, and various public and government agencies to better her ability to provide consistently high level of service and oversee operation of the town as a whole. She makes an effort to attend a cross-section of other board meetings at night on a regular basis to improve her relationship with all boards. Her thoughtful and detailed town manager reports are a valuable resource to the BOS and provide insight into all of the effort she puts into her role as town manager." That was number 7. I do have to say, reading this out loud, I think future versions could streamline this. I think there's a lot of repetitiveness in it. And
Yeah, I kind of felt that when I was
Yeah,
filling out the
right.
10 different categories. I was like, I covered that.
I did
Right.
too, doing my
Yeah.
self-evaluation.
that's what happens when you build one of these by committee, you know?
Yeah. But we are going to have a workshop on
Right.
that, so that'll be great to streamline it, be easier for everybody.
And there's a lot of repetitiveness. They're
Right.
separate categories, but they cover the same kinds of things.
Exactly.
Number 8, fiscal management. Prepares and administers the budget, shows knowledge of budgeting principles and practices, revenue sources, projection techniques, and financial control systems, presents information in an intelligent and accessible format, makes the best possible use of available funds, conscious of the need to operate the local government efficiently and effectively, determines the cost effectiveness of the programs and compares alternative strategies. As Chief Procurement Officer, effectively manages town purchasing of supplies and services, disposition of town property, and construction projects. Establishes and manages sound fiscal policies, including the 5-year financial forecast, financial policies, and capital plan. The rating. While 3 members rated exceeds expectations, 1 member felt the rating was needs improvement. When putting together the budget, the town manager's goal is to create a budget that balances the needs of the departments, town and school. Given the limited resources, Working with the police and fire chiefs, long-term staffing plans were created to hire 1 police officer a year for 10 years and 1 firefighter a year for 4 years. The cost of hiring multiple officers and multiple firefighters in a year would significantly increase the financial impact in future years by significant salary increases and overtime costs, and therefore the incremental plan made the most financial sense. The budget presentations that Ms. Lemieux provides to the Finance Committee, the Board of Selectmen, the public hearing, and at town meetings include a summary of the process, a review of all the revenues that the town uses to base the budget on, a description of the types of expenditures, and summarizes the major changes in the budget. These are PowerPoint presentations and give in a manner that is easily understood. There are a number of areas that Ms. Lemieux has proposed to make the best possible use of available funds, such as putting a larger amount of free cash into reserves, minimizing borrowing to reduce the overall debt, continuing to increase the pavement management funding by $50,000 each year, increasing the amount in facilities account to address deferred maintenance projects, and putting a portion of free cash into other post-employment benefits OPEB trust fund. All of these items promote financial stability and financial responsibility. This was evident when our auditing firm presented that we are improving our financial creditworthiness due to increasing amount in our reserves. Also, putting aside funding into OPEB trust funds adds to our creditworthiness when the town needs to go out to bond for projects. As stated in criteria number 3, capital planning and forecasting, the town's revenues and expenses are 2 areas that improvements have been made in regards to data collection and the ability to analyze the data. The capital plan provides projected capital needs for the next 10 years and has become more comprehensive with the addition of the Vertex facility projects. The financial forecast and the capital plan were presented to both the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen in January. There were a number of amendments to the financial policies this year, including the investment policy, the debt policy, free cash policy, and borrowing policy. Recently, the Finance Director and I, and Town Manager, proposed a reimbursement policy that puts into writing, let me just make that change. That puts into writing the reimbursement procedure that the town follows and was a recommendation by our auditing firm. This ensures that approved expenses are reimbursed with backup documentation and decreases the risk of fraud. As Chief Procurement Officer, Ms. Lemieux reviews all bid packages from both the town and school to make sure they are compliant with procurement law. This year included a request for proposals for engineering and architectural services for a regional animal control facility. More recently, guidance was provided to the Sewer Commission, the assessors, and the school department. As part of Ms. Lemieux's annual goals, the creation of a procurement manual will serve as a guide on current procurement law requirements for supplies, services, and construction projects, and codifies internal processes with creating requisitions that ultimately result in purchase orders. Heather also instituted a new directive to all departments that all procurement records would be kept in the town manager's office. This has been a recommendation of our financial audits for multiple years. One member felt that the budget process needs to be much more open and flexible to ensure that the needs of the town are met. The capital plan is another fiscal area that needs to be much more open and flexible. In the capital plan fuel tank discussions, there was no discussion concerning the cost effectiveness of the program, the environmental issues of continuing to use tanks, and the placement thereof in an environmentally sensitive area, nor were alternative strategies explored until the issue were raised by residents. I am hopeful that the town manager will grow in these areas as she gains more experience. Another member said, Heather takes a conservative approach to budgeting that has consistently afforded us the ability to allocate excess funds to much-needed capital projects and to increase the yearly contribution to the Special Purpose Stabilization Fund. Without this sound planning, we would never have been able to afford a new pumper truck or ambulance without borrowing money. That was number 8. Number 9, relations with elected members of the board. Maintains effective communication with the board, maintains mutual trust, and treats all board members equally, implements board actions in accordance with their intent, keeps the board advised as to the needs of the town, including but not limited to the status of buildings, equipment, and infrastructure needs, keeps board members advised of the status of projects and work assignments, carries out the directives of the body as a whole as opposed to those of any one member or minority group, disseminates complete and accurate information equally to all members in a timely manner, offers professional advice to the board on items requiring board action with appropriate recommendations and supporting information based on thorough study and analysis, responds well to requests, advice, and constructive criticism. The rating. The board was split, with 2 members exceeds expectations and 2 members needing improvement. This is the area with the most serious disagreement among board members with regard to performance versus expectations. 2 members feel that the town manager needs improvement. One stated, "I greatly appreciate that the town manager prepares a report for each meeting. However, I feel that the BOS is not always provided with important information. When the vice chair of the planning board member resigned, he sent a letter to the town manager that included several important areas of concern. The BOS was not given a copy until it became widely known and was then specifically requested. The town manager created and submitted a list of items to be requested through state grants without discussing these requests with the BOS. Some of the items had never even been raised, ever. The town manager's preliminary FY20 budget, which the BOS first became aware of when it was presented to the Finance Committee on February 14th, 2019, including items such as 2 new hires, even though the town manager had assured the BOS on November 6, 2018, that there would be no new hires outside of the public safety 10-year plan. Perhaps she shares information with individual members, but I can only speak from my experience. The other members suggesting improvement was required stated, "Perhaps the circumstances are because I am a new member, but at meetings, oftentimes the other members know things prior to our open meetings. Communication seems to happen behind the scenes, which is discouraging." Contrasting that, a member wrote, "Through electronic distribution of the BOS meeting packets, it is ensured that the entire board receives equal and timely access to all necessary documents. Included in the packet is the town manager report that covers a wide cross-section of information, including status of ongoing projects and infrastructure needs, as well as progress on goals. Heather consistently offers professional advice during BOS meetings to help members make informed decisions. As mentioned before, Heather has handled a tumultuous and at times less than professional group of BOS members with great professionalism. Ms. Lemieux is very conscientious in her duty to relay important information to the board. This may include emails from residents that they have asked to forward to the board members, questions that they have been asked by one member and therefore distributed to all as a follow-up to the question, public safety updates from the police, fire, or event information such as Summer Street groundbreaking ceremony. To prepare board members for meetings, the use of the Google Drive has proven very effective. All correspondence on topics of the agenda are filed in a Google folder for all members to review before the meeting. Town manager weekly reports offer relevant updates to keep the board and public updated and at times an objective recommendation. The town manager reports also have incorporated a summary of department updates from the monthly department head meetings, announcements, and upcoming meetings Heather will be attending. She always attempts to incorporate all members of the board's suggestions in the final product. Any action to implement a policy or decision of the board is based on the majority vote of the board. That was number 9, one more. Number 10, reporting. Provides regular information and reports to the board concerning matters of importance to the local government using town charter as a guide. Responds in a timely manner to requests from the board for special reports. Takes the initiative to provide information, advice, and recommendations to the board. Reports produced by the manager are accurate, comprehensive, concise, and written to their intended audience. Produces and handles reports in a way that convey a message that affairs of the organization are open to public scrutiny. The rating. The board was split, with 2 members exceeding expectations and 2 meeting expectations. When needed, professional advice is provided to the board on items requiring board action. Examples include recommendations such as policy changes and budget priorities to the state that reflect the town's current needs. Weekly reports are updated on ongoing projects, events, and other topics to keep board informed and with the most up-to-date information. Action items are handled as expeditiously as possible, and important information between meetings is relayed to the board through email. All information for meetings is put into the Google Drive for the board to review in advance of meetings. One member wrote, "The town manager report is a good method for communicating." Another added, "The town manager's report, prepared for each BOS meeting she attends, is very well received and keeps the BOS and citizens tuning into BOS meetings informed of many things going on in town. I would greatly appreciate receiving this report by noon on the day of the meeting at the latest. Were it to be made available on the day before the meeting, that would be even more helpful. I realize that the town manager is still new to this position and may be reluctant to provide advice and recommendations to the board. I believe the BOS erred when voting to allow the skate park group to use land adjacent to TC Passios without first reaching out to the Parks Commission or DPW. It would have been helpful if the town manager could have weighed in to suggest that the BOS take the time to reach out before voting. The recent request for a TIF was another instance where guidance would have been appreciated. I look forward to growth in this area." Finally, a member said, "As previously mentioned, her thoughtful and detailed town manager reports are a valuable resource to the BOS and provide insight into all the effort she puts into her role as town manager. When a member requests information, probably requests information, or has an action item they would like addressed, Heather consistently has a response either immediately or by the next meeting." That's the end of Part 2. Part 3 is the overall performance summary. This section indicates the employee's overall level of performance, given the performance competencies ratings and the achievement of the annual goals. Summarize the employee's overall performance. Comments regarding employees' overall performance. The average rating of all performance standards by all board members was halfway between meets and exceeds expectations. While one member's overall average fell below meets expectations due to 3 standards rated needs improvement, the remaining members' average ratings were above meeting expectations, and 2 members rated Heather exceeds expectations on most, either 8 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 factors. I'd like to hand out, just as much as I fought doing this when the previous board talked about numbers, I've had a lot of requests to
Itemize it.
to take to translate it into 3 exceeds, 2 meets, 1 needs improvement, and to do the averages. So I'll hand out. I'd prefer, unless you insist, that this is really not part of the review, because we've talked several times before about performance reviews that use numerical data tends to focus in on the numbers and an argument between whether 2.7 is different than 2.6 as opposed to the...
It's just one sheet?
Just one sheet,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, but as I read through, you'll follow along with what I'm referring to. The best achievement. Well, let me reread that first paragraph now that you have what you have in front of you. The average rating of all performance standards by all board members was halfway between meets and exceeds expectations, while one member's overall average fell below meets expectations due to 3 standards rated needs improvement. The remaining members' average ratings were above meets expectations, and 2 members rated Heather exceeds expectations on most 8 out of 10 and all 10 out of 10 factors. Next item in the form is best achievement, and these are quotes from the input. Ms. Lemieux attends and participates in a great number of town-related events. This shows dedication to the overall community. Quote, completion of a procurement manual which includes guidelines for bidding requirements and the town's requisition and approval of purchase orders and munis, As suggested in the town's audit in February, all departments, town and school, were notified that in order to streamline the process for procurement and ensure that the engagement of services has gone through all the proper procedures, departments would need to have contracts reviewed and signed off by the town manager and finance director, and all procurement files would now be kept in the town manager's office, end quote. Quote, dedication to conservative budgeting that has allowed for new hires, purchase of capital equipment without borrowing, and consistent contributions to the Special Purpose Stabilization Fund. Next category was subject, which would benefit most from further attention. First quote, I think it's important to always be aware that Lunenburg is a government and not a business. The participation of the community in government is essential. Second quote, employee supervision and delegation of authority while retaining responsibility. Performance goals and reviews are an important part of management. According to the town manager, in an email to me dated 4/18/19, only one of her direct reports has had such an evaluation this year. All town employees should be reviewed each year, and the town manager would set a good example by making sure this happens. Third quote, I believe we should stay dedicated to the pursuit of complete street projects, especially for the center of town, even if we need to identify small portions of the recommended projects with the biggest impact to fund through the capital plan. Then finally, general comments. Quote, the town manager joined us in early 2017. She was replacing an exceptional town manager who'd been leading the town for 10 years. It is an impossible job to fill those very capable shoes out of the gate. My deepest fear for both the town manager and the town we all love is if town manager truly believes she currently exceeds expectations in all areas, as is stated in her self-evaluation, that the BOS is not setting the bar high enough. I do feel the town manager is working hard, and I am hopeful that she will grow into the town manager Lunenburg needs. Another quote. I can't emphasize enough how impressed and grateful I am for the way Heather has persevered through this year of BOS member conflicts and issues. She has been able to find direction despite conflicting opinions and individual agenda. I know it must have been frustrating and exhausting, but she did not let it show. And the final quote, Ms. Lemieux has demonstrated her abilities as a strong town manager. She has the respect of the department heads and is a valuable asset to the select board. She is knowledgeable of municipal government, works well with the council, and provides solid staff support to the board. Section 4 talks about a professional development plan, which I leave to the incoming board to begin to talk about next year's and future. The objective is at some point before the election for us to agree on a composite review. Are there any comments or questions at this time?
I'd just like to say I appreciate the amount of time and hard work you put into this. Clearly, I hear my own voice, and I can clearly see the voice of others. I think the way that you use direct quotes from each individual's report is a good way to not skew someone's opinion. And again, I think you did a great job and appreciate the effort.
Would just ask a question in terms of whether we discussed it tonight or another time. I feel like it's a summary of 4 separate things and doesn't feel like a consensus. Like, I feel like it's a great report, but it keeps everything, I mean, I guess I don't understand what the conclusion is. After the 22 pages in terms of like I calculated out, we talked about the numeric, and I like it because I calculated it out, and it comes to like a rating that compiles everything. So in terms of what is the consensus here? Like if somebody said our consensus is, and fill in the blank, I don't know what
Well, that was the intent of discussing this as we went through.
I think, I mean, I don't know, Phyllis was here last year, but I feel last year was maybe more of a compilation, and this year, I think you hear people's voices that was expressed that you felt didn't happen last year. So I think it was a response to constructive criticism.
If I can add, just from my experience in evaluation process, usually a composite, it is the average of each member's board's evaluation.
So numeric usually?
Right, if you were to assign it that value, it would be the average, so.
Okay. Yeah, so then, I mean, I feel the numbers, and thank you, Jamie, this was a lot of separate ways to put it. The numbers to me are the way you take everybody's individual time and thought. It calculates out to an 80% average of the total.
It calculates to, we have three different comments, and this, it's hard to explain it's hard to explain what the objective was when we put this document together. But there was long and many discussions by the board at the time to move from a numeric number to input that could be useful to the person who was receiving the information. And we felt at the time, and this certainly is up for change going forward, if the new board changes their direction and does it with the town manager, I think that would be fine. But the thought was that the meaningful input to an employee is to know if they're meeting expectations, or if they need improvement, or if they're exceeding expectations and should continue. And when you reduce it to a numeric, whether you have a 3-point scale or a 10-point scale or a 5-point scale, you get hung up on ending up with 73.67, and it doesn't provide any valuable information to the recipient. So the board that put this together specifically, with some pain from some analytical people on the board, specifically agreed to give up some quantifiable data to have a little messiness in, we generally think we're meeting our objectives, or we generally think we need improvement in a particular area. The only reason I did this is I knew that we had a very split board, and I wanted to lay it out so that we could see that our consensus is split. And it's actually split. The meaningful data is to look at it not as a lower right-hand corner, what's the average, but where do we agree and disagree on each of the 10 factors? And I think that's meaningful. Now, how do you write that up? I don't think you need to. If you give this information to the town manager and she understands that we all agree with it in our own different ways, it's meaningful data for her. If we give her a 72.67, I'm not sure it's meaningful data to her.
I remember those discussions.
Yeah, they were long.
Yeah.
And I think it's good for the public, too, where they can't just go, 80%, whatever. If you want to get a real understanding of what's going on, read the document.
I agree, except being analytical and clinical, if you want to look year to year, or you want to look at something, I feel like you have to have something concrete, because you can't take 5 years worth of 22 pages worth of documents and really get a sense of anything if you don't have a way to. But I mean, the numbers, to me, it helps create voice in it in terms of representing an average of things. For example, I found the most impactful item number 9, and only Jamie had compiled the information per the recommendation of council. So it was sort of experiencing it for the first time while it was read. And that's the relations with elected members of the board. And I found it very striking that I wasn't the only one that felt I wasn't communicated with. So I think, there is value in discussing these things, because something like that is very serious. And I looked at my calendar. We had a meeting during the day on May 2nd, 2019, and 2 members left. And then for quite a long time, 2 members stayed in here with the town manager. So you see that real division where some people are included and some people are excluded. And then when we have frustrations, questions, or appear concerned, then it's turned on us for being negative. But if all 4 of us experience something entirely different, then it may not lie with us that there are frustrations. It may truly be as things are. And so, having not seen anybody else's evaluation, this one really stood out to me, because I've really felt on the outside of a lot. And in open government and in the seriousness of government, it's very important that we all feel included. So this, to me, is
Yeah, I was going to stop on number 9, but I felt we weren't having discussion, so I let it go. And the comment about feeling that others have communication behind the scenes, I can speak for myself that I rarely ever, seek out information from Heather behind the scenes or even have any discussion with her. It's usually at the meeting, see her 5 minutes before and 5 minutes after, but if it seems like I know things, it's probably because I've been doing this for 7 years, and there's a lot of knowledge that's just resident.
about 25 minutes after that meeting ended, I came back in and went up to the window, and 2 members were in, 2 members were out, and I wasn't allowed back in the office. So there's...
Can I correct that? Because I actually, I was meeting with Jamie in my office, just the 2 of us, going over the evaluation and the agenda for tonight. There was no other member of the Board of Selectmen in my office.
Not here. I've certainly never been in Heather's office with another.
I was
BOS
outside
member.
talking to somebody the entire time, and nobody came out. So it was just, and then I came back in. It was just an unusual event, and it's reflected here that we're not communicated with equally. And I feel like Selectman Luck and I have received a lot of criticism for having questions or feeling uninformed, feeling surprised, and perhaps if we're not communicated with equally, maybe it's not surprising to hear about a new position if you already knew about it. And I think that this one item may explain a lot of the criticism we've gotten, where we feel like we have questions or we want to engage because we come here unknowing of information and learn it here. And if that's not the case across the board, then it explains a lot of the stress that we've been under through this budget process.
Well, I can unequivocally say to you, I get 99.9% of my information from the information distributed in the Google Drive, and I do not get it directly ahead of time.
And I would say that the role of the chair involves setting an agenda, and that's part of my job. And I certainly have never criticized any member of this board for being uninformed. Whether they're informed or not is a function of how informed they want to be, because all the information is public.
Per an example, when we talked about the Gilchrist Street land acquisition, I wouldn't call myself uninformed. I feel like this is where I should become informed per open meeting law. And there was a specific moment in that meeting where you had a lot of information, and I said, where did you get that information? And you already had it, where we all should have learned it here. There's been a lot of those
Well,
experiences.
maybe I did a little homework.
You can't
Why
do,
are you accusing me?
You can't do homework on topics that are presented to us together as a board for the first time.
Well, I disagree, and I am
Unless that-
offended by your accusations.
Well, I mean,
Just so you know.
I'm talking about item 9 and that we feel less engaged, or at least I'm saying, I know there's many times where open meeting law, we're supposed to learn stuff here, and
your input is part of this.
don't know if one member should spend so
Your
much.
input is part of this document that's going to be used to improve relationships and set goals for next year. That's why we're doing this.
And I will say that any chair of any board frequently speaks to the department head or whoever staff is appointed to them to figure out what's going to happen in the meeting ahead of time so that they don't look like an idiot. Make sure you have the right information going into it. It's not unusual to do that.
At some point, and I had hoped that it was going to be this evening, but at some point, we need to vote on a document. The document can be do, but it needs to be a document because that's what we are committed to provide to the town manager. I'm going to say that there is a carve-out exception that if you have not used your personal review, which is protected under personnel law as a document at this meeting, it is not a public record. If I stand accused of not putting together a fair compilation, I'll waive that right and put my review into the mix and let anybody that wants to read it. I would encourage maybe Mr. McQuaid to do the same. And you could do your own compilation. and see if it comes up any different. But the intent of this is not to play a game with each other. It's to provide meaningful feedback to the town manager on her performance and provide meaningful direction to this board to improve its performance going forward.
I mean, I know we're probably split on this, but I would at least go on record of making the motion that I approve of this composite performance review. And I'd make a motion that we endorse it.
Well, I'll second that for discussion, but
Well, we had agreed upon, at least I thought we agreed when we started this tonight, that we would discuss it next week.
It's fine. I was just, in case you had changed your mind, I wanted to put it on the table.
Okay, thank you.
okay, so have we completed, do you have the information you need to be prepared to have this discussion and provide a consensus something to the town manager next week?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I do, and I just hope that if there's any comments that you feel maybe you weren't heard or something like that, but arguing over your opinion versus my opinion is clearly we differentiate, and I think the two voices are even right now both heard in here, so it should be.
I'll explain a little bit to the public on how I created this document. A lot of the verbiage was taken from the town manager's self-evaluation. It was fact on what she accomplished. Mm-hmm. And then behind each of them, I added quotes of what we all contributed. I admit not every single word was there, but I think I got the gist of what we were saying. If you want to add something in or take something out, that's fine. But I believe that the end result that will continue, it's a public record. Somebody can go dig through what I read tonight. But the public record that's going to become her review is the one we agreed to next week. It's not this one. It may be very close. I hope it is. Okay? Did you want to? Would you want to? I'll withdraw the second if you withdraw the motion.
I'll withdraw it if there's really no desire to go forward with it. So.
Yeah. Do you have any comments?
Not at this time.
Okay. Fine. All righty. Moving along. Oh, another fun topic. Our next item is the annual town meeting follow-up. And this is just, we put this on there before the annual town meeting. If there's any items we should address tonight as a result of the town meeting, we should address them. This is probably going to be an ongoing discussion for this board and for the board after the election.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it gets picked up by the board after the election because the composite's going to change drastically. But if there's anything we need to wrap up now, you'll happy to talk about it.
Does anybody have anything they want to?
Sure. Sorry, my voice is a little in and out. I was really concerned that the ballot questions that we voted on didn't make it onto the ballot. I think it ended up being 7. I think, was it 6? And we added one more, the 7 questions that were supposed to be on the ballot. It almost, thankfully, prohibition was barely voted against in the sense that it's less of an issue. It certainly would have been an enormous issue if the prohibition articles passed at town meeting. And honestly, I think the outcome may have been slightly influenced by some of the ways things were adapted to manage the situation of it not being on the ballot. But I want to know I would really like to understand how that didn't make it to the clerk. I mean, that's very serious. It could have been marijuana prohibition. It could have been anything else. But how we vote to put ballot questions on an election and they don't get from us to the clerk. I don't know who submits those. I'd really like in a follow-up meeting for Heather to be able to let us know what went wrong there. That to me was extremely serious and upsetting part of town meeting.
I can address that now. It was completely my error. I take full responsibility for it. I apologize profusely. Just say it will never happen again. That's all I can say. It was my oversight, completely unintentional. So I apologize.
I believe once the crowd became aware that those ballot items were missing and started to understand the implications, we ended up tightening up the bylaws for marijuana. But there was a real opportunity for those of us who believed in prohibition for that to happen. All the votes came in around 60%, and we needed 2/3. So we were very, very close to achieving passing on those articles, and I almost wish the information that they were missing from the ballot could be, I was saying to Adam Costa, I wish this could be stricken from the case, like if it was in court, because once people understood the catastrophe we were under, it had huge implications. I've been advocating for marijuana prohibition going back for 2.5 years now, and it was devastating. That's a very serious oversight. Thank you for sharing with us what happened. It's pretty serious.
I think I'd just like to make a comment, though. A mistake happened. Something didn't get printed that was supposed to get printed. I think there's, and I think it's very, very noble of the town manager, because it's our responsibility to take responsibility for that. But, I mean, there's a lot of us that have some culpability in this. I mean, the town clerk is responsible for the elections, and a ballot got printed without all the information on it.
She didn't
The planning, but may I finish, please? The planning board were the ones that wanted to get this information on the ballot, and they could have been more, they were a player in the event that could have caught it. We signed off on it, all right? We signed off on the ballot, and we did trust our staff, but the buck stops here too. If you're going to say it's my responsibility, it's our responsibility too. Yes, the town manager is the one we rely on to cross all the T's and dot the I's, and she made a mistake. Full stop. But the planning board knew what was going on. The town clerk is responsible for elections. We're the final signature. There's a lot of people that miss this. I think the learning here is it's never going to happen again, because I'm going to want to see the printers' galleys before I sign off on anything again. But, yes, the town manager is in a position to say, it's my responsibility and I take it. And I acknowledge that and I appreciate it.
No,
But I think we all have a...
Sorry. Accept it fully. It was my responsibility. So, again, I apologize. I did, if you wanted to discuss options, I did talk to the town clerk about if the board wanted to hold an election, what that time frame looks like, if you wanted to discuss it again at an upcoming town meeting, town election, to go through that process again.
Thank you. Yeah, the item became really hard to cope with at town meeting because we weren't sure what our options were. We weren't sure. I think as we tightened up the bylaws, those of us who supported prohibition became heavily focused on the only way we could manage the situation. That's such an important topic, and I think what I would just like to put in here again is a couple of us have been under extreme criticism for being analytical and questioning and engaging on topics like job performance. And in this situation, this is a really serious problem that occurred, and I think it's okay to say when there's a needs improvement or how do we work together for a better outcome. And to have been so heavily criticized for us being thoughtful in an evaluation or not being willing to just not look at it critically or analytically, I think there's great irony that such an enormous, I think I was actually like shaking at town meeting because I couldn't comprehend the fact that after all that work, those questions weren't going to be on the ballot. And it changed the way I could advocate for prohibition, and it just had enormous impact and could have enormous impact, forever with that issue in town. That was the moment. And so that, to me, was one of the most confusing parts of town meeting, was not knowing how to move forward with that topic.
Well, I think, given the situation, obviously regrettable, but we did pivot in town meeting and pledge, the three of us who were going to be here, that we'd put it on upcoming ballot should it pass a town meeting. So we handled it to the best that we could.
The one piece of data I do know and I'll share is that to have a special election, which would be required at this point, requires 35 days at least to get notices out and everything else. We have an election in 14 days or whatever it is. I would suggest that the new board take up whether it's worth the expense to do that or not. I mean, we committed, I think we did the right thing. We committed to the town that if we needed to, we'd do it. I think if you did it 35 plus 15 days from now would be the earliest, I think that would be sufficient. And I would suggest that after the election, you decide what you want to do about it.
We'd also have to bring it back to a town meeting.
But whether you have an election or not is totally within your purview.
Right. I also spoke with town council about it, and I think he stated this at town meeting as well, but the selectmen, with the host community agreement, they can deny any host community agreement multiple times. So if that's the pleasure of the board, that's also an available, acceptable, and legal means.
And it didn't pass at town meeting, so it's kind of a moot point, isn't it?
I would think, but I'd like to leave that to the new board. I'd like to leave that to the new board to decide. Optically, you could spend the money and have another election. I don't see any reason to because it didn't pass at town meeting.
Right.
And as far as being criticized, got to have thicker skin. I've been criticized for 6 years.
Yes, you need to be an alligator for sure.
That's right.
I have a couple other issues.
Yeah, we got more stuff to do. Oh, on town meeting? I'm sorry, go ahead.
One thing is, I think there was a big kerfluffle in the early because of the food and drink thing. I mean, I believe that we should just make it a standing rule that for town meeting, you can bring in food and drink because everybody would have left if they couldn't bring in food and drink. You know, I just think that that's, as Tim Murphy kept pointing out, we own the building. When the town meets, the town should, what's the worst case? You got to spend a couple bucks cleaning a chair, It just seems like that shouldn't be an issue time and again. It should be within our purview to say there is going to be food and drink for town meeting.
I think you certainly can improve on a lot of the things. There's been a lot of discussion on what could be different and what could be better. There's a lot of room for improvement. I think on the other side, I'm thrilled that the town hung in there and got it done.
Yeah, no kidding.
So that was terrific. And frankly, the original plan was to try to split it up. We would have split it wrong. Because we were going to put Monday night for just the charter. And that wasn't a big item.
Right.
But you never know.
Right.
So.
Well, there was a suggestion the other evening, Mr. Alonso, that said, maybe 7 hours in, maybe at 4 o'clock, we take a vote of the town meeting and say, all right, do you want to get through the rest of this, or do we want to move to Monday? And then people won't feel like they're trapped. They will be able to make a reasonable decision. They will have some choice. Because that's a very long time to be sitting. I just kept having to get up because I can't sit for that long. I just can't. So I think, again, going forward, that's something we should think about. Just the kind of the logistics of town meeting. How can we improve that? What else? Oh, there was a suggestion by a town meeting attendee, and I forget who it was, that the BOS begin now discussions on a 10-year plan for town staffing needs. I think that's a great suggestion. The town wants us to delve into this, and I suggest it as an action item. Let's start planning. And another thing, since the amendment to the budget offered by a citizen to remove the HR director, assistant manager from the budget only failed by 2 votes. This hiring should be deferred and raised again at the November special town meeting. It clearly lacks the support of town at this time. It passed, but by 2 votes.
I think it was more than 2. I think it was
It
closer
was
to
2 the
10.
first time. Maybe it was 5 the second.
I think it was closer to 10.
It's not what I would call support.
130 people is not what I'd call a mandate either, but that's what it is.
And selling the primary lost by 1 vote the first time. I'm not going to redo that one.
Any other? Okay. Let's see what we got here. We have no minutes, we have warrants.
Warrants are there. This needs to be passed. Let me see. Let me check this dates on this.
What is this? Oh, these? Oh, that's part of that. Okay. There's just one warrant?
Yes.
Okay. It's an accounts payable in the amount of $1,560,905.89. We have some signatures for the appointments we made, right?
The licenses.
And the license.
Lorraine will fill in the hours.
Just 2?
3,
No,
actually.
3. Oh, that's just me. Okay. Anything there?
That's all.
Okay. Town manager report, well, let's see, do we have any action file issues?
Sure, I had one thing I wanted to mention. I got a message from a mother whose child was involved in there was a bad accident at the Walmart intersection, where I think there was 5 people transported, luckily no fatalities, and she was asking about that intersection, and I know it's state road, but, about green arrows or, one group going at a time, and, if there's, that's a very chaotic intersection, but.
Was her child in there?
Yes, her son was in the accident, and she was just asking what can she do to start advocating for lighting improvements on that intersection. And I said I would mention it here because I know it's a state road, and I don't know how you could communicate with them, Heather or the chief, but I said I would bring that concern forward because she just said there was guardian angels there because she's there. It was, I guess, a really bad accident. So.
Okay. Any committee reports?
Just that the Central Mass Regional Stormwater Coalition is meeting at the Lunenburg Public Library tomorrow morning at 10. We're hoping to get them to go to the pancake breakfast first.
Good.
We'll see.
Are we going to do the quarterly financial, or do you want to hold that?
Yeah, if we can hold off. Karen had to leave.
Okay, Karen had to leave. We'll hold off the quarterly financials till next week.
I wonder if maybe we should put that like first or
Yeah, like
something,
in
so she
Christmas.
doesn't have to sit through the whole.
Fine with me. I mean, it's
general,
current
you know?
business, but I don't mind moving it up.
Right.
Yeah, fine.
Poor
Town
thing has
manager
to sit
report?
through the whole meeting.
Just a reminder, there is a dementia-friendly kickoff event May 20th at 6 o'clock to 7:30 at the Lunenburg Library. This will be the kickoff that Lunenburg is in the process of becoming a recognized dementia-friendly community. Recycling education campaign. In our effort to address contamination in our recycling, we've been putting recycling education tips on the town Facebook page, the Lunenburg Ledger, the annual town meeting warrant booklet, and on the town website, and an informational video on public access. To begin a more intensive campaign, I would like to apply for Mass DEP's Recycling IQ Kit Grant, where the goal is to improve the quality of recycling collected at curbside by raising the recycling IQ of residents using the curbside trash and recycling program. This intensive campaign would include oops tags on recycling bins that have items that are not recyclable as an initial warning, and then not accepting this recycling if households continue to use these items in their recycling. It would also include an 8-week check-on curbside recycling that would be paid for with these grant funds. The grant award is up to $20,000 and up to 40 hours of technical assistance from our Mass DEP Municipal Assistance Coordinator. This type of campaign has had measurable success in other communities, such as Lynn, with a marked decrease in contaminated recyclables. This will likely cause some upset residents if the recycling is not collected due to having contaminated items. And so I'm asking for the board's endorsement before applying.
I would definitely endorse that. You know, when we were meeting about your evaluation and you talked about the recyclopedia, that is great.
It's a great tool.
Because I'm looking at stuff containers from planting, and I went, "What do you think?" And they said, "No, put them in the trash." Damn.
Yeah, I know it. I use it a lot. It's called
it's Casella's, isn't it?
no, it's through Mass DEP
okay.
on their Recycle Smart page. They have a recyclopedia, so you can type in an item to see whether it's recyclable or not.
Cool.
Now, where did you get it? I mean, I remember I got to it. Did I get through the DPW website?
If you just Google Recycle Smart, and it will
okay.
come up through that page. It's their new whole public education campaign to educate the public on what's recyclable.
Can we put a link to it on
It is, I believe it is on our
Okay,
website.
I'm
yes.
thinking, I think I got through it through the town's website, but I don't remember
Yep,
how.
through the DPW page and through the trash.
Okay.
Great.
I thought it was fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
Who coordinates the oops versus the, like who keeps track of like the strike one, strike two component of somebody's recycling?
So Casella would be the ones to put the oops tags on. So we'd be working with them. And I believe, so actually.
Are they
I
on
brought-
board with this concept?
Thank you for reminding me. This is an example of what they would leave. And it has like a checklist. So don't put in plastic bags, or you have a food container in there has food on it. Like, it's supposed to be rinsed out, like pizza boxes can't have any food on. So it would look like that.
Is Casella on board with that? Because I feel like that would get in the way of their
Yeah, we will. We've
productivity.
continued these discussions. That's why we started the process with them asking for a baseline audit to see what our contamination ratio is, and it's close to 20%. So,
And is there something that the town does ahead of the oops containers?
That's why we've been doing the educational tips to try to get the word out now, to, introduce these messages through social media, the paper, different ways to try to educate first. This will be just, the first tag would be your warning. So, okay, now I know I can't put this item in there. The second is when it would be rejected.
And the third, they dump it on your lawn.
So, that's going to take the driver a lot more time, isn't it? So he's probably, he's going to be able to have
responsibility to.
He just must have to do one street one week and another street another week or something like that, because that would take forever.
Yeah.
Well, it helps them too to reduce
learning
They're willing
process
to work with us on it. They are.
Yeah. But
And there was a grant you were trying to get too. What would that do?
we did receive the funds in our contract. We have educational funds for Casella, so we
great.
did. It was $3,800. So we do have that money available as well for education too. So this can be used for printing materials. They also propose some different events to hold. It could be at the school, with the school. So I've reached out to the superintendent as well.
Oh, yeah, that'd be a good idea to get the kids who drive their parents crazy. Good.
It starts young, too.
Yes, it does.
And this is another example of, for the IQ grant, it's like a mailer, you can use the funds towards sending these to all the residents as well.
Great.
So,
Thank you.
welcome.
Just for what it's worth, those kind of things, they never make it in the house. They go into recycling.
What's going on my
They go into
refrigerator? I know
recycling.
exactly who I'm arguing about what's going in the recycle.
It's a process. MRPC Walkability and Parking Study. Montechusett Regional Principal Planner Sherry Bean is currently working on collecting all the traffic data, crash data, and inventory of bike and pedestrian infrastructure, which includes crosswalks, sidewalks, and signage, for the two focus areas for the walkability and parking study. The next meeting will be a public meeting to do a walkthrough of these two areas to get the public's perspective. The proposed date is the afternoon of June 1st. Any comments?
So can we put that on our calendars, or is it just not sure yet?
Not sure yet. Yep, that's the proposed date. We'll have to work out. I spoke with the land use director. He's available that afternoon, so he could be there for that as well.
Great.
Summer Street reconstruction project update. The asphalt emulsion injection in the Lunenburg section is scheduled to begin on Tuesday, May 7th. Paving of the base and intermediate courses is scheduled to begin on May 13th. Mass DOT is anticipating that the paving operation will take all week to complete. Upon completion of the paving, the contractor will begin raising drainage structures. The contractor is planning to begin pulverizing the Leominster section of the project on May 28th, but this date is subject to change. Concrete sidewalk and driveway installation in the Fitchburg section of the project should be completed the week of May 6th. All drainage work on the project is now complete. The Regional Animal Control Facility. I spoke with the Townsend Town Administrator, and he relayed that the estimated cost for the design of a regional animal control facility that was a result of the regionalization and efficiency grant was too cost prohibitive to move forward. I would ask that this be a future agenda topic to discuss the next steps and a future plan for an animal control facility. Department head meeting updates. We had our April monthly meeting. The land use director relayed that the first hearing on the O'Brien Homes development off of Howard Street was continued until May 13th. The original plan included 135 homes, and this application includes 122 homes, with 70 of the homes to be age restrictive, and also includes a donation of 40 acres of land for conservation purposes. For the fire department, the fire chief commended the new DPW master mechanic for completing a significant amount of vehicle maintenance that needed to be done on the fire vehicles. The library director relayed that they recently, hired a library assistant position that is working out well, and they will be filling 2 other vacancies soon. The DPW director stated they have done about $500,000 of paving in the last month, and has been working on addressing a variety of projects at the parks.
I guess they can pave in the rain, huh?
Better than 90 degrees.
Yeah.
The cable manager said they are currently stretched thin with staff and filming meetings. They're in the concept phase of a community news program that they hope to launch soon. A new program called Lunch Ladies of Lunenburg will be launched in May, and recently recorded Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? The Council on Aging Director has been working with the Memorial Day Committee, and a ceremony will be held on Memorial Day at Veterans Park at 10 a.m. on May 27th. The Senior Center will be open for coffee after the event. The assessors are working on the supplemental bills that will be sent out in June. The treasurer collector, taxes are due May 1st, and notifications were put up on the sign at the Ritter, the electronic sign, Facebook, and the town website. The town clerk stated she is getting ready for the town election.
So what are the supplemental bills?
Those are your first 2 quarters are estimates, and the second 2 are.
Oh, okay, so the last 2 quarter bills. Okay, thanks.
Notice to businesses about the plastic bag ban. At my request, the executive assistant will be sending letters this week to grocery stores and retail businesses in Lunenburg regarding the plastic bag ban that will go into effect on June 1st. The ban affects grocery stores where more than 50% of the gross floor area is devoted to the sale of food products for home preparation and consumption, which typically also offers home care and personal care products, and retail stores that offer the sale and display of merchandise within a building. Thin filmed plastic bags used to contain dry cleaning, newspapers, produce, meat, bulk items, wet items, and other similar merchandise typically without handles are still permissible. I received notification that the district local technical assistance application I submitted to Montechusett Planning Commission to update our ADA self-evaluation has been approved. We will receive up to 200 hours of technical assistance, and their staff will perform a self-evaluation at both town and school buildings and town parks and recreation areas to review accessibility and compliance with federal and state standards. This project will be complete by December 2019 and will result in a presentation of findings, recommendations, and next steps required to complete the full ADA self-evaluation and transition plan. MRPC is also currently advertising to hire a consultant through an RFP process to assist up to 3 of its member communities to either develop or update an ADA Title II transition plan for municipal public rights of way. I expressed interest for Lunenburg to be one of the 3 communities to benefit from such services, and Principal Transportation Planner George Snow responded that since Lunenburg is doing an ADA transition plan for other facilities through DLTA, and based on my participation in previous ADA meetings and my continued interest in ADA public rights of way issues, MRPC felt that Lunenburg should be included in this first round of ADA public rights of way transition planning. This will be a supplemental plan to our ADA self-evaluation plan that covers facilities and parks. Use of space at TC Passios. Dr. Burnham and I have worked out having the extended day program return to the TC Passios beginning this summer, and the early learning program, not the integrated preschool program, relocating to the TC Passios beginning next school year. I met with Jerry Beck of the Revolving Museum today to discuss the terms of using the cafeteria space at the TC Passios in exchange for community art programs and workshops. We have worked out most of the terms and need to finalize language with town council, as well as meet with Dr. Burnham about the logistics and about community art projects that would involve students.
I just have a obviously consistent question with the TC Passios building, bringing students back. Did a lot of advocacy for surveillance cameras and security items to be placed in the 2 schools that didn't have them. Are there any plans to bolster the security and sort of adapt this space for that need? And, you know, that building, the Vertex trials we keep talking about identified $2 million of immediate needs, which were things that were failed or unsafe. Like I know the lead water was high. What are we doing to ensure that this is the right time to use that building without addressing any of those issues?
I do have a quote for surveillance cameras for that building, because it's also, I think every building deserves, actually town building should have some kind of security and surveillance. So that would be a plan to put surveillance in the building. I spoke with John Londa about that question on lead in that building, as well as I think it was
Turkey Hill also has lead water bubblers.
Yes, and he relayed that it was a particular bubbler, and same with the Turkey Hill, that because of non-use, that the water just sits stagnant.
Sure, yeah, non-use is a component.
They're going through the process of an evaluation and everything.
Okay.
Correcting.
So it's one bubbler in each facility?
Particular, I maybe stand corrected, it may be more
There
than
was
one
more
bubbler,
than
but it
one
was
lead outlet
yeah,
places where
because
lead
of
water
not
was
being used.
So they've been able to identify
Yes,
which ones
yeah.
it is.
And what are I don't recall, I'd have to go back to the report. Do you recall what the items were that were considered safety or completely failed? I know like there's no fire system and things. I'm just surprised we're putting kids back in this building without any updates to the things we've identified needing updating.
I'd have to go back to the Vertex
If we
report
could
and-
add that to something we look at in terms of that being a town-owned building, there was $2 million worth of items listed as completely failed or unsafe. I'd just like to have a discussion about that building, those items, and, bringing people back into it without addressing any of those items.
And I can share that, which I think probably has been, but the Vertex report with the school, so they're fully aware of that as well. It was at their request to bring those programs back to that building, more because of convenience of holding in 2 separate spaces too, and practicality of staffing.
That's good that it's not sitting vacant.
Yes. Town hall updates. The remodeling of the 2nd floor bathroom at the town hall to be an ADA compliant bathroom is almost complete and has a few punch list items to be done. Montechusett technical students did a great job, and I thank both the staff and students at Monty Tech for helping us keep this project affordable. So you can check it out if you want. Needs a couple ceiling tiles and odd items, but it's workable.
Oh, it's usable?
It's usable.
Good to know.
Yep. Bill Lasco from the Historical Society picked up the weather vane from the company who made it and delivered it to us in April, and it's currently in the town hall attic. The next step
Bike
is...
lock on it.
It's got a Brinks guard 24/7.
Yeah, right.
The next step is to look at the structural integrity of the tower and if it can be safely attached. And I've restated that multiple times. I hope you remember, that we need to make sure that is structurally secure.
It fell off
Because
last
it fell
time,
off
didn't it?
before.
Yeah.
Meetings, Town Council will be holding monthly office hours on May 20th from noon to 4 p.m. I'll be attending a dispatch negotiation session tomorrow. I'm meeting with Kelly Brown from the Department of Energy and Environmental Resources, Karen Chapman of MRPC, the IT director and the contractor that has worked on all the energy efficiency projects about the completion of the last project on Thursday. I'll be attending a Mass Toss meeting on Thursday as well in Groton, and the Finance Committee meeting on Thursday night at 7 p.m. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Dance card's full.
Okay, our upcoming meetings, we're scheduled for a meeting next week on the 14th, and then one on the 21st, the last two meetings in May. The town election is May 18th, and you'll see some new faces in here after that. Before I ask for a motion to go into executive session, is there any public comment from the public? Please.
I just want to let you know that the police department's going to be giving out oops tags too to motorists. Kidding.
You speeded?
Yeah.
Oops, there you go. Don't do it again. Wouldn't that be funny, huh? Address your comment about the intersection. That the mother, the parent obviously had a conversation with me about that. We'll look into it. I mean, we've done some, in the past, we did some letter writing campaigns for that, other issues at that intersection. The one she brings up is a pretty important one, but we'll be looking into that. A meeting with Sherry Bean on Thursday for the traffic study. as a
Oh,
matter of
great.
fact. All right. I know you mentioned that in your report, so I wanted to mention that. I just want to share something that I shared at the department meeting this past week. I know I wasn't mentioned in your report, but I was the guy who brought the chocolate cake, by the way. That wasn't what I wanted to share, though. So if you remember last year at the town meeting, because I know you talked about doing a 10-year plan for, hiring people. The previous town manager had sent me a text while I was there. I don't know if you remember me talking about this publicly. And she said, I asked her, can I share it with the public? And she says, yeah, absolutely. She said, I just want to thank all of you for working so hard with so little over the years. And she says, I realize that now, working on
Concord. Yeah.
So, I was very taken by that comment. So anyways, I just want you to know what we do on a day-to-day basis, because this is what we do. There's day-to-day operations. You really need to know what happens. And a lot of it's extremely important because we try to make ourselves available to the public. And don't forget, we're managing upwards of 12,000 people plus. Just 12,000, almost 12,000 residents, not to mention all the rest of the people that have to do business in Lunenburg. And so I brought this up at the town meeting to bring it to Heather's attention, not for my own purposes, but for all of us as managers, to understand and maybe understand or better understand some of our ability to manage time. So what I did is, a week prior to that, I took some days and I put a Word document up on my desktop, and every time I did something, I time-stamped it. Whatever it was, and I described what I did. So I have documents. It's like a log of what I did. And allow me a minute here to share this with you, because you got to listen to this. Because this isn't just one day. I can probably give you 4 right now that look exactly the same. So this happened to be April 24th. At 7:25, I arrived at work, changed into my uniform, as I do every day, checked in with the desk officer, as I do every day, at 7:35. At 7:37, checked in with the public safety coordinator. We had issues with payroll software. There was a lengthy discussion regarding issues with the payroll. At 8:10, I checked in with the lieutenant, which I do every day, lengthy discussion regarding computer issues. At 8:20, reviewing capital items, organizing quotes for duty gear and body armor, and et cetera. At 8:35, IT was on premises, for a discussion regarding IMC and Citrix issues, problems with the OIC computer, losing icons, discussion about security cameras at the school, issues with monitoring those cameras in the cruisers. At 8:46, public safety coordinator is back in my office regarding payroll issues. 8:50, back to work on quotes. 8:55, Sergeant Connery's in my office to discuss firearms purchasing. 9:05, meeting with IT and the public safety coordinator regarding police DTS calendar. 9:45, meeting adjourned, back to working on quotes. 9:47, interrupted by a necessary email to Mark Terry. 9:50, back to the quotes. 10:32, still working on obtaining quotes, numerous phone calls. 10:56, call to a General Motors representative to discuss an issue with ongoing key issue with one of the Tahoes. 11:10, go over the payroll with the PDC and sign. 11:29, call from Interstate Arms regarding a quote for handguns. 11:35, heading to Town Hall to speak to the payroll clerk. 12:20, lunch. 1:06, meeting with a representative from MHQ in my conference room to discuss new police cruiser purchases and equipment. 2:45, meeting adjourned. 2:46, answering emails. 3 o'clock, meeting with Ruth White from the Raw. And 3:20, ordering parts for one of the AR-15 rifles. 3:51, call from Matt Griswold, GM rep, regarding the key fob problem. And 4:21, the call finally ended, and I decided to go home and bake for coffee with the chief the next day. That's a typical day
May
in our
7th,
world.
10:10 p.m., Selectmen's Meeting.
So I could use a few people around the station too, like a deputy chief, and we'll talk about that in the future. Well, maybe not, because I'm leaving next year anyway. But somebody will be. But I just wanted to share with you. You got to think about that. You know, it sounds like minutia, but it's all really important stuff. And when a citizen comes to the lobby, unless I'm in a meeting, I don't turn them down. My doors are open. Everybody knows that. I take that time, and I think that's very important. And I think we all should do that as town employees. It's an important thing, is listen to everybody in town. That's why it's a service. That's what we're here for. We're public service. So thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Tom Alonso, 284 Lancaster Avenue. I will not delay you getting into executive session, but I do want to say two important things. First, as far as the evaluation, I want to commend all the people on the board, especially the chair, putting together, getting 4 separate reports, or in some years 5, and putting them into a composite is very difficult. Getting the right evaluation form and what you should evaluate on, whether it's numbers, whether it's narrative, I argue that you need both, because one without the other is very difficult. It's hard to evaluate year to year. If you want to evaluate multiple years, nobody wants to read 88 pages for 4 years. But you can't just have the numbers either, because otherwise it's meaningless too. So I appreciate it, especially, everybody on the board has acknowledged the divisions on the board, and it's very difficult. I think that voice came clear. And one of the things that I would say is that I think there were a lot of great points brought out in how we can work with this even within open meeting law, because I think Mrs. Luck brought up a great point in her beginning comment, and I didn't think about it until she brought it up, is how does a member know, without seeing the other ones, that it's an accurate depiction of everybody's report? Now, doing direct quotes certainly helps. Mr. McQuaid said that. I agree. But there's got to be a way to do this, and I look forward to us trying to work toward that. Every year we try to make the evaluation better, but I really want to applaud the effort from everybody to do that, because it really is time-consuming. The second thing I wanted to say, and I wasn't going to say it, but it was raised already, and that is the questions not getting on the ballot. I appreciate it being discussed as an action item. I take it incredibly seriously. I think it was an excellent point to bring out. While I don't think it's not, somebody's life isn't in jeopardy, I don't want to overplay the severity, but I certainly want to underplay it either. It was a very, very serious problem that I think undermined a lot of people's confidence in what to expect And so I applaud the town manager. It's a very difficult position to say, to raise your hand, however sheepishly to say that. I applaud you for saying that. And I think that we can't let it, I personally wouldn't want to let it sit there. I think that the people are owed at least a report about what should have happened and what did happen, to serve two purposes: to say, explain what happened, number one, and more importantly, going forward, so that everybody who had a hand in the oversight of that knows what their role was. Because as the chair said, there was a lot of missteps in that. And again, I don't think anybody should be, in lock stock outside, to be ridiculed. But I also don't think we should say, just because it was moot because of the votes at town meeting, that we should just say, okay, well, it won't happen again. I think really there should be a full investigation report that people have access to ensure that when they know that the board took it seriously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comment from the board?
Sure. I would just like to follow up on that in sort of, thinking more about it, in that in terms of government, and that's what we are. Voting is the core piece of it. That's where the voice is. And so I think, in the future, we got to really have that ballot right in front of us as a discussion point before it gets signed off on, and have some type of process where we're double checking. There's no way to go back in time, but that piece of information had enormous impact on the ability to navigate that topic. And even if we try to offer things moving forward, we can't recover from whatever happened that day, finding out on the spot that we had no ballot questions. I also wonder if anybody knew that ahead of time, and if we might have been able to better handle the situation without so much confusion. But thank you, because that out of everything at town meeting, that was such an upsetting moment to try to figure out how to navigate the fact that the ballot questions were missing and not able to be reprinted. So I think the report's a good idea, so that we can learn from it and then not have it occur again. And then that's the only positive outcome in a mistake, is learning how to not let it happen again.
Any other public comment? No. I will entertain a motion to enter executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Paragraph 2, to conduct a strategy session in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, be it the town manager, not to return to public session.
So moved.
All those in favor? Mrs. Adams?
Aye.
Mrs. Luck?
Aye.
Mr. McQuaid?
Aye.
And I for myself. Good night, everybody.